your chair?
I'll move over here. That's okay. That's okay. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Where are you sitting? Right there? Yes, sir. Oh, here.
Were you at Spicy? We walked in there. Making the round spot? There was one, but I wasn't allowed.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things, just right, especially when we just have had it.
So where was that? Look at this. Can you print some off? Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. I'll tell you that you never wait till my members. You always have to be one of
It was wonderful.
It's Neil DePurin or Hotels. He's at the front desk and he wants to sign in. So he said I don't know, but I've asked him a couple times about this. I thought maybe he faxed it in and this guy was going to come in and sign it or something. I don't know.
I don't have anything faxed, and I don't have anything else.
Well, he's here. And he's from the United States. I don't know what to do.
So Tom, the older girl and it's going to get all given as far as the Tom right.
No, this is not Tom. This is an older gentleman. Maybe, well, I know they're lost, right? But they don't have a form. I mean, he can vote. But if it comes down to it, it's I can't count as
Start at 5.
Let's see. Gentleman
we debated for
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you guys wasn't an accident.
she's probably
Well, I'm fine with Pam, it's just she sits along this, which is a good argument, especially because she's not in the SCC. She doesn't have the same motivation, but I don't have a problem with that.
So a little obvious. Proxies for Mike as chairman today is the bank resolution.
Oh, okay.
I've got some to-do sheets here that I don't think I need to give you.
Give you whatever you
I'm sorry? A whole lot better as soon as I give you the floor. This is the opinion of the parliamentarian that we got for some of today's activities.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to let you know that it is 8 o'clock. And so in this first minute of our starting, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and also to let you know that at any time that you would like to enjoy and help yourself over here, and also to the donut holes in the far back, make yourself welcome and enjoy. And we will now, there are a few people that are still checking in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And so my name is Debbie Brown. I am your new chairman of the Alaska Republican Party, and I'm very, very proud to be here. And I thank you for your cooperation and your patience and working together today as we get through this fast agenda. We have people that are catching the airplane that need to be at the airport at 12:30. I myself am included. Earlier than that. So the plan is, as you will notice on the agenda that you may have picked up, at the bottom of your agenda it states that we're going to try to adjourn at noon. So perhaps sooner, but we'll see how we do.
Debbie, I'm sorry, did we gavel in?
We are about to.
Okay.
So we are now in session, gavelled in, as they say, and I would like to start with the.
Can I make a motion?
We were going to say the pledge first and have a prayer. Would you be willing to wait for that,
Absolutely,
Brian?
Debbie.
Why don't we go ahead with roll call first, and then we'll move to the invocation and then the pledge. And for those of you that do not have an agenda, they were out on the front table. It might be nice for you to enjoy having one. missed out on that, go ahead and help yourself. So I'll just help you along the way, though. We're going to go from to the roll call now, and then we'll have Linda Adams, if she's in the room, to say the invocation. Thank you so much.
After roll call.
After roll call.
Okay.
It's like Julie Gillette.
Okay, Debbie Brown's here, Ralph Seekins,
Here.
and I have a proxy for you for Debbie.
Yes.
Alice Flick is here, I'm here. Glenn Clary.
I have a proxy.
And Frank Clary. David Eichler. Barbara Haney. Is that on? Is the phone on? Hey, Debbie.
Yes, hello. Are you all able? We're calling Julie. Can you repeat that name, please?
Barbara Haney.
Is there anybody?
Is there anybody?
Is there anyone on the phone?
Such a dog. Is it the same phone number?
You may have to
Welcome to Copper Services. Please enter your conference ID followed by the pound sign. Please hold while I confirm your passcode. Thank you. Your passcode is confirmed. If you are the host of this meeting, press the star key now. Or you will please enter your host security code followed by the pound or hash key.
Need Chrissy in here.
Yeah, I don't know the whole. We need a code.
Okay.
And
Right now.
our key, yeah. Everything else is good.
Thank you. Your security code is confirmed. Hear the tone. You will be the 11th person to join the meeting.
Okay. All right, we're on the line now. We're in session. We're doing roll call. Is Barbara Haney there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Thank you. Julie Duquette? Matt Raymond? I got a proxy for Sandy Doyle for Matt Raymond. Sandy, you here? Lance Roberts?
Here.
Richard Stilley?
Here.
Jim Norcross?
Here.
Edmund DeVries? Here. Bob Doyle? Here. Chris McMullen?
Here.
Lisa Santerre? Amanda Chris? Kyle Easterly? Mike Paulson? David Morgan?
Here.
Kurt Wickersham? Who was that for Wickersham?
Pam Rager.
Pam Rager? Okay, do you have a proxy for him?
Yeah, you can hand to the office.
I think you have it. If you don't, we've got it at the office.
Okay. Randy Stevens? I've got one for Rick Davidge with Randy Rudrick. Steve Strait?
Here.
William Spearman?
Here.
Bruce Schulte?
Here.
Jason Pretzel?
Here on the phone.
Okay. Joe Riggs? And I've got a proxy for Dave Donnelly for Rick Whitbeck. Is Dave Donnelly on the phone or here?
No, I'm here.
He's here, excellent. Jeremiah Stevens? Peter Goldberg?
Here.
Richard Giesel?
Here.
Mike Tariana? And Jill DeParent as his proxy.
I haven't received the proxy, but I think they're working on that.
Richard Hawkins. Connie McKenzie.
Yes.
Kathy Hosford.
Here.
Bill Privet.
Here.
Robert Venables.
Here.
Gail Brandt. Richard Sherman. Christopher Burns. Paul Verhagen.
Here.
Donald Handerland. Tyrone Barr. Becca Zerk.
Here.
Aaron Downing.
Here.
Peter Giesel.
Here.
Kathy Burton.
Here.
Kevin Clarkson. Tom Wright. Paulette Simpson.
Here.
Randy's here. David Eichler is proxy for Mike Cracks. Bud Fate. Cheryl Markwood.
Here.
Donald Hayes. Roy Burkhart.
Here. My proxy, Randy Rivers has it.
Hey, Randy's already got one, doesn't he?
Yeah, Randy's already got a
Randy's
No,
already.
no, you're misunderstanding. That is, the district chair, Norcross, has the proxy.
Okay.
He emailed it to me, I forwarded it to you, you have the proxy.
Yeah, for Rick Davidge, correct?
No, ma'am. This is District 7, it's for Roy Burkhart. It was emailed to you several, 4 or 5 days ago.
His district chair.
Okay, Jim Norcross got it.
Norcross has the proxy for Burkhart.
Randy.
It is sent to
Got it,
me.
I got it. Larry Bovis.
Here.
David Groff.
Here.
Daniel Palmer.
Here.
Rex Shattuck.
Here.
Karen Perry. Brian Ho.
Here.
Tim Worthen.
Here, but honor.
Okay. Alex Kumar. Bruce, you got a proxy?
Yes.
Okay. Lynette Larson.
Here.
And Dave Donnelly.
Here.
Marianne Pruitt. Jason Rampton.
Here.
Austin McDaniel.
Here.
Tuckerman Babcock. George Martin. Stephanie Madsen.
Proxy, Connie McKenzie.
Okay. Linda Adams.
Here.
George Wright. Craig Johnson. Lance Pruitt. Kevin Meyer.
Okay, we have a house rep here.
Okay, who's the house rep?
Steve Thompson.
Steve Thompson, okay.
The Pruitts are here. And Lance Pruitt just walked in the door.
Okay.
And Mary Ann.
Thompson is here. And Lance Pruitt.
Keep it out. Welcome.
Good morning, Representative.
And Marianne's here too?
Yes.
Excellent, okay. And for Senate, who's here for Senate? I've got Kevin.
Senator Stevens.
Senator Stevens, okay. Governor Parnell. Lieutenant Governor Treadwell. He's got a
Here,
proxy.
proxy.
Catherine. Okay.
Julie, I have governor's proxy.
Oh,
I
okay.
got it turned
Okay.
in.
And then Kevin Sweeney for
Here.
Lisa Murkowski.
Here.
Myrna Maynard for Don Young.
Here.
And Ginger Johnson for Rhonda Boyles.
Here.
Ben Moore.
Yep.
And then Pam Rager.
Here.
And Ryan should not be on the phone, correct?
That is correct, he
And-
has resigned.
Is Portia Watson attending? Okay, so that's everybody. Did you do a count?
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have 2 items where I'd like for you to stand. We're going to have the invocation first, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance if Kathy Hosford is here to assist with that. Linda will lead us. Kathy, come on up as well at the same time, and then we'll follow one another.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we know that through you all things are possible. We ask you to give us the strength and wisdom to restore the democracy of our country and for our leaders to uphold our country's constitution. As we begin our agenda today, I ask that we are able to make decisions that are wise and correct and that please you. We ask you to guide us with your will. Be with our families and with our veterans who have served their country and those who are continuing to serve this great land. Watch over us during this meeting. Keep us in your care. In your precious name we pray.
Join me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please note the time. It's 8:13. And we have the approval of the minutes, and then we'll be hearing a motion from Mr. Brian Ho after that. He has a motion pending. So
Madam Chair?
the minutes.
Could we approve the agenda first, if we could?
We have a request for approval of the agenda.
Second?
Mr. Ho's motion, I believe, has to do with that, perhaps. No. Well, you already know about that, eh?
Is the maker of the motion, can I speak to it?
Sir.
I would certainly entertain the amendments too before we approve this agenda. Proceed.
Madam Chair, can I rise to amend the agenda?
Yes, sir.
In the interest of making sure we have a full slate of officers, while it may be very new business to elect someone, it is, I believe, timely and appropriate to move the election to the initiation of this process, and also to create an item, as I advised the chair this morning, that is to have a bank resolution as to who are the authorized signers, since this past week the Republican Party did not exist, since the chair and vice chair who are on the bank card are no longer qualified to sign. We need a new bank resolution to do that. So I move that we make those two material changes, and furthermore, try to do all the finance stuff at one time when the first time we bring the treasurer up, because that will save us a great deal of time rather than putting everybody back in that mindset 3 times. Is there a second?
Well,
Second.
okay, now, with respect to Randy's proposal, I would like to request that be moved to a particular location on the agenda. And so here's what I would like to have happen. Excuse what's going on here with this.
Madam Chair?
Who was the second on that?
We have a motion on the floor to amend the agenda, but I'm going to suggest how the amendment would look as we make this adjustment. Let's move election of vice chairman to immediately beneath the approval of the minutes. So pencil that in. I'm not sure what's going on there. I put my phone there.
Madam Chairman?
One moment, please.
Point of order,
Yes, one moment, please. This is Debbie Brown, the chairman speaking. One moment. And also, move a specific resolution.
Just create a resolution.
We'll create a resolution that has to do with appropriate signers for the bank. Okay, so we'll put those together immediately beneath approval of the minutes. Yes, now online, a gentleman online, could you identify yourself and then I'll call on. This is not good.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
This is Jim Rockcross, District 7. Everything is being blanked out when you speak.
Yes.
But steady.
Cheers, Barbara. Same thing here.
I apologize. We are at the mercy of technology. I will hope that the connection improves, but.
Anybody hear me now? Yes, I can hear you now.
We can hear you.
I hear you now.
May I make a suggestion? The
static is continuing, I would suggest
Now you're all set again.
we need everybody to hang up the call back.
I'll see if I can. Julie, would you speak to that?
Could we have everybody hang up and call back in?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good grief. Okay.
Welcome to Copper Service.
I'll make this announcement again just a little bit later, but it's been brought to my attention that the governor, who was planning to come and speak today, is not feeling well at all, and so he has informed us that he will not be able to join us to speak to us today. So that's a bit disappointing, but remember our governor in your prayers regarding his health. We need him healthy every day, of course.
Robert, District 2.
Jim Norcross is
Ian Baker, District 10.
Boy, we got a new one now.
It may be the computer.
Pretzel back on the line from District 22.
That was just somebody with some feedback.
Pacific Moon, District 10.
Jim Norcross, District 7.
Aaron Terry, District 12. Barbara Haley, District 3. District 16.
Sounds like they're here.
Okay, I'm going to just in review, we have a motion on the floor. We have not yet voted on it. I'm assuming that it will have minimal amount of discussion, but we just move a couple of items forward on the agenda. And so if there's no objection, actually let's call for the vote. Basically, is there any objection to this motion?
Can you just clarify
Madam Chair, point of inquiry.
Yes, the motion is to adjust the agenda before we approve the agenda. The agenda has been adjusted so that we're going to have the election of a vice chairman immediately after we approve the minutes, as you see on the agenda.
Madam Chairman?
And secondly,
Jim Norcross, District 7.
one moment please, and then secondly, we're adding a resolution which would allow for getting appropriate signers for the banking account. All right, any further discussion? The gentleman from District 7, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would like to speak to the agenda, ma'am. I received an updated agenda last night, and that election of the vice chairman has been dropped from the agenda.
We have a motion on the floor to put the vice chairman, the election of the vice chairman on the agenda immediately beneath the minutes.
Thank you.
And that motion is on the floor right now. Gentleman in back.
So I would move to amend to move the appointments in between where we just had a motion to put the vice chair elections in the banking resolution. I'll speak to that for a second.
Motion on the floor.
That's an amendment to the amendment, I would assume.
This is an amendment to the motion.
I've already called the question.
The question's already been called.
You can't do that without what we need.
So here's what we'll do. The gentleman here did call for the question. So calling for the question essentially means do we just
We have 2/3 vote.
what? Excuse me.
2/3 vote to get to pass.
Very well. So as I was saying, the gentleman here did call for the question. We need a 2/3 vote in order on that matter, and then we will vote on the motion. If we do not get a
Point of order.
Mr. Tarianen.
If somebody moves the question, then we would have and second, but it's calling the question just means they want to vote.
Looking for a second.
Under the rules, under the parliamentary procedure, it requires a 2/3 vote to limit debate.
We're on the same page.
Is your question answered, Mr. Garia?
Who made the second?
Okay, so we've had the question called for. We're going to vote on whether to end debate. Okay?
To clarify the process, I will second, I don't know who seconded originally, I will second for the record.
We have the matter before us. It's calling for the question, which means we're not going to debate this motion any longer. So may I have the vote, please? We're looking for a 2/3 vote to call the end to the debate on this motion.
On this amendment.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Therefore, we have no further on that matter, but we will now vote on the amendment. So, all in favor?
What amendment?
The amendment? All right. If you're listening now, you'll know what the amendment is. Yes?
You may not act on an amendment first. Secondly, your amendment has to be first, but there was no amendment because you had already called for the question on 1, 2, and 3. So if you'd like to make a motion, he can.
After we vote on this motion.
Ms. Pam Ragor is our parliamentarian, and she is on the line, and she's the one that just spoke. As I understand what Ms. Ragor has just advised us, we may vote on the amendment, which the motion was, as I recall, we are amending the agenda, and that is what we're doing. And so we've had a motion to amend the agenda, and then we had a call for the question. We've got that taken care of, and now we will actually be calling for the vote on the matter, which would place these two new items on the agenda, which are election of vice chair and a resolution for handling the signatures on the banking account. Those two items are moved, and that is what the matter is before us. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. The ayes have it. Our agenda is amended to that point. Now, are there any other further amendments to the agenda or proposals for amending the agenda? Gentleman in the back, one moment. Oh, Brian, you're...
I move to amend by inserting in between the newly placed position for the vice chair elections and the banking resolution, the appointments, and I'll speak to that if I get a second.
Just identify yourself. It's going to be tough on the secretary if we don't identify.
Lance Roberts, District 5.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have a second for that motion? Is there a second for that motion?
Daniel Palmer, District 10, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to amend the agenda and a second.
So if we're doing a banking resolution, then we need to make sure that if there's any treasurer appointments, those are done before we do the banking resolution so that the treasurers can be included in that.
Okay, now, so if this motion is passed, we will be moving applications and appointments, that line item that is now currently located under the new business. We'll be moving that up right in between the election of the vice chair and the resolution having to do with the banking and the signing. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. It is moved. That motion passed. All right. So now we have before us, are there any further changes to the agenda that we think we need? Mr. Brian Hove.
Brian Hove, bonus vote, District 19. Out of courtesy to all of those that need to leave today at the midday flight, I would move that we adjourn to time certain 11:45. Please, the chair.
Second.
Thank you for the motion. We have a second. Would you identify yourself as the second?
I got you.
Very well. Very well. Ms. Farino. All right, we have 11:45. The motion is that we, one moment please. The motion is, and it's been seconded. Okay. The folks online cannot hear again.
I hear you fine.
Some repeat.
I hear you.
I am repeating the motion right now. The motion is that we adjourn at a time certain, 11:45 a.m. so that people... would the lady identify herself and say that again, please? Any discussion on the motion? Notice, all right.
As a point of order, the adjournment is listed at noon on the agenda, so this would actually be a motion to change the adjournment time. It's listed from 12 to 11:45.
That is correct.
Right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Excellent. 11:45 is our adjournment time. We'll do our very, very best. With everyone's cooperation, we should be able to do that.
Everybody, nobody leave.
Very well. Approval on your agenda. Here we are, approval of the minutes from December 8, 2012.
What has been submitted to you guys is the summary and also the addendum A with roll. There's still an addendum B that I'm working on. This has been kind of an action-packed month, but it's just going to list all the motions for everyone's reference, so that will be forthcoming at the next meeting. But I'd definitely like to pass these as submitted.
Very well. Can we have a motion, please, for adoption of the minutes?
So moved. Motion to amend.
We need a motion and then a second on the approval of the minutes. A second?
Motion to amend. Okay. The minutes before.
Randy had a motion prior to yours, Mr. Goldberg, to adopt the minutes, and then we'll amend after that.
Well, if they're approved, then my motion is.
No, wait, point of order. Peter, the way it goes is he makes the motion, it's seconded, and then you can make amendments to the motion.
We need a second to Randy Rudrick's motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Ho.
Then recognize.
I will. Yes, sir. We'll take turns right off. Mr. Goldberg.
All right, I even wrote it down, so you'll have it exact. I move to amend under Secretary's minutes for April 28, 2012 by striking out text beginning with, quote, with the following, end quote, and ending with the word, quote, throughout, end quote, and inserting, quote, as corrected, end quote. And then for September 22nd, 2012, by striking out text beginning with, quote, with the following, end quote, and ending with, quote, District 20, end quote, and inserting, end quotes, as corrected. That brings us in line with Robert's Rules of Orders, page 469 and 475.
Would you please reference page numbers for me, Mr. Goldberg, so that I can be able to follow
Oh, it's
in
the
my
second
minutes?
page. Right
Okay,
at the top.
could you help everyone in the room know where we are on that, specifically in the language that you're asking to change?
If you look on the second page, April 28, 2012, where it says minutes were approved, with the following amendments would be struck all the way through to the end of District 24 throughout. And then for September 22nd, 2012, again, it would be struck out with the following amendments and ending with District 20. And both those sets of text would simply be replaced with the words as corrected, which is in accordance with Robert's Rules. Page 469 and 475.
Okay, so that was on page 2, and then the other page number where that is found?
Both on page 2.
Oh, they were both on page 2, okay. So those were the only two, and on page 2, does everyone understand the meaning of the motion? Okay,
I can explain it, but
apparently they understand it. Okay?
Well, I'd love to hear the rationale of the...
Okay, well, first of all, here's the text of the motion, so you can read it.
Thank you.
I'll do it. Now, this is not the actual Robert's Rules of Order, but I actually read this whole book. If minutes of a previous meeting are corrected, are the corrections entered in the minutes of the meeting at which the corrections were made? Answer. The corrections to minutes are made at the time when those minutes are originally submitted for approval, which is now. Such corrections are made in the text of the minutes being approved. The minutes of the meeting at which the corrections are made should merely indicate that the minutes were approved as corrected, without specifying what the correction was.
Thank you. Does everyone understand the meaning of the motion? I believe there is understanding. Ms. Leita, our secretary.
I have the unabridged version and the reference on page 469. The original context of the abridged version is in reference to not sending out digital copies, but actually reading the entire set of minutes and doing corrections at the meeting on the spot, like we were doing a resolution. So if you'd like to stick with, what you're proposing, then that would also mean that we would have to read the minutes in entirety and then edit them as a body. So if you'd like to go that direction, we can do that if the body so wishes.
Okay, that's an interesting point, and I was wondering if Pam Rakor has been following this discussion. Ms. Parliamentarian, do you have any thoughts on this discussion to contribute?
I believe she's correct.
Very well. Ms. Rakor, our parliamentarian, has concurred with the secretary, Ms. Loretta, about the concept involved. So, if we pass the motion that Mr. Goldberg has proposed, then in the future, as a body, what you will be doing is suggesting that we read the entire set of minutes, if I understand you correctly, in front of the entire body to review. And so it might be something to consider right now whether we really want to do that or not. But that's a very important parliamentarian discussion to have. The body will make that decision.
Point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
Can you, if we go to that point, waive the reading of those and accept? Is there a motion acceptable to that?
May I?
Well,
go ahead. And
within this context, we would also need to kind of adjust our rules too to not send out a digital copy within 30 days like we currently do. I send out a 30-day draft that's not, approved for people to review before the meeting. So we would have to forego that, therefore making the reading of the minutes necessary at the meetings. So
I think we're reaching understanding here. Gentlemen in the back, speak up so our parliamentarian can hear you in this discussion.
This has been more, my question is just, is it the parliamentary rules that say we would have to read it in its entirety and there's no digital distribution?
It's not compelling that, no. I think it's really the choice of the body as to how we want to handle that.
And it's our body rules that would say we have a 30-day digital distribution.
Correct.
So I don't see why we can't just abide by our body rules and send out the digital distribution. Maybe the parliamentary rules.
Our body rules. Question.
Yes, sir.
Would it take a two-thirds majority to suspend the rules and just insert his corrections?
May I think I don't think that all we have to do is vote on this motion up or down right now. I think what we want to do right now, and if I were to please ask the body to just do this, decide how you want to handle your minutes. That is what we're doing here. And so if we accept Mr. Goldberg's motion, we will not be having this detail added in the minutes. That is what we're asking for. However, it also means that we're going to have to read the minutes fully every time in order to do that, per the rules. So it's really kind of straightforward, and we're going to wrap this conversation up. In order for us to make the motion of 11:45, we're going to have to move ahead on this. It's really not that challenging. We've got one gentleman behind you, Mr. Roberts, and then we'll come forward to you, and then on up. The gentleman in the back.
I don't see why striking this text requires us to read minutes in the future. It's merely a correction that Mr. Goldberg has put forward to strike some text from these minutes to remove some extraneous language, and so I don't see why one mandates the other.
Ms. Parliamentarian, could you answer that question? The gentleman in the back said, why is it that we cannot just strike the language that Mr. Goldberg has proposed in his motion, because we want to do that for this particular session? And then why would that necessarily mean that we have to move ahead next time and read the minutes fully?
Minutes have already been approved, is that correct?
No, they have not yet been approved. We're in the process of approving them.
Those minutes of April 22nd have never been approved?
No.
That is correct, as far as I know.
April has been approved. We're trying to approve the December 2012 minutes. That's what he's referencing, page 2 of the December 8th, 2012 minutes that reference the corrections made to April and September minutes as documented. And his rationale is to follow Robert's Rules of Order, to which, I mean, we can strike it as something independent, but if we're doing it because we're trying to follow Robert's Rules of Order, that's the context I was given.
All right, and also, I appreciate our National Committee man, Rob Sekas, has just helped me out here with his iPad, and just want to say that except as otherwise provided in our party rules, all proceedings shall be conducted according with the rules of the Republican Party of the United States, the RNC, or where the proceedings are not otherwise covered in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order.
Our rules take precedence.
So, the party rules take precedence, and the party rules, I believe, state that we may amend this as we're proceeding with Mr. Goldberg's motion. Discussion, Mr. Roberts, and then we have one more piece of discussion, and then I think we're pretty much ready to roll on this. Mr. Roberts.
Lance Roberts, District 5. So I agree with most of the speakers before. We can amend it and make this process work however we want. What I would urge is that we keep this in there so that when it's emailed out on that 30-day distribution, people can make sure that a mistake wasn't made by the secretary on what she received at the prior meeting on the minutes that were being approved, and people can look at that and verify that those are correct. That's the purpose of putting them in there, and I think it's a good purpose for more eyeballs to set on it in writing, because most of these are done verbally from the floor, these corrections to the minutes, and that would give an in-writing way for people to verify that and give input with the next one.
So you're advocating for a no vote?
Yes.
On the motion. Mr. Rudrick.
To avoid incredible complications, I would suggest that corrections be made to the minutes that are being corrected, and that they be redistributed so that everybody's not in the analysis business of trying to find out what's been changed where. Secondly, the most recent set of minutes, there's an indication that 2 of the proxies were not verified. They were received, proxy for Mr. Fate and for Mr. Wright, and I would like the minutes to reflect that we have paper copies, I'm certain, in the office. They may never have been transmitted to Juneau.
Okay. I'll get with you and
Very well. At any rate, we have the motion before us. I do believe that we're in good understanding of where we are on this. It's a matter of how the body would like to handle their minutes. And so we will proceed with the vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
The ayes have it. The ayes have it. So now we have a motion before us to approve these minutes as amended, okay, as the corrections have been made. All in favor? I think we've had a second on that motion. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Very well. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, and we're moving ahead now to the election of vice chairman. And so what we need now are a motion of nomination from the floor. And then prepare yourselves to have a secret ballot. We are going to have a secret ballot on the election of the vice chair. So we will need some slips of paper. I did not think to have those prepared.
Madam Chair, I move to open nominations from the floor.
We have a motion to open nominations from the floor, and then we have that. Okay, remember that motion, because we're going to have to come around to that motion just a moment after we get some nominations here. So
You got to open it first.
all right, so we have a motion to open for these nominations. It's been seconded by Mr. McQuarrie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Very well, the ayes have it. We are open for nominations. May we have a nomination from the floor, please?
Madam Chair, Bruce Schulte, District 21. I would like to nominate Peter Goldberg, District Chair from 26. I've had the pleasure of working with Peter during this past election cycle in the party office and in the victory office. I found to be very dedicated to our goals and our mission. Very good man to work with, and very focused. And I think his resume, which I'm hoping he would share with us, would pretty much speak for itself. So if he would accept it, I move it by vote for Peter Goldberg.
Second.
Mr. Goldberg, do you accept?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. All right, we have a nomination. Are there any other nominations from the floor for vice chairman? Any other nominations?
I move the nominations be closed. Jim Norcross, District 7.
Second.
All right. We have a motion that nominations be closed.
Who was the second?
Right.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Tariana?
We have Mr. Goldberg provide a brief bio, please.
Yes. Why don't we get this motion off the floor, if you would allow me that, and then we'll hear from Mr. Goldberg. So we have a motion on the floor to close nominations. Last opportunity for any discussion on that motion before we move on. All right. All in favor of closing nominations for vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Goldberg, would you like to come forward and say a few words, please?
First of all, I want to make sure everyone knows that I was not running for this position, and I've been drafted by a whole bunch of you. I'm retired. I really didn't want to. But, George Washington didn't want to lead the Revolutionary Forces. He didn't want to be president. But he was called and did it. I've heard it said, and I wish I could quote the person who said it, that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for the good men to do nothing. I like to think of myself as a good man. And finally, I'm accepting because back in 1975, I took an oath to save and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I still stand by that. I'm going to share something else with you about my background that I did not plan on sharing, but I've been specifically asked to share it, because I shared it when I became a district chair. When I was 7 years old, I was the oldest of 3 kids, and my father and another man robbed a jewelry store. And I don't know if it was my father or the other guy, but they killed the jeweler. So my dad, excuse me, it's kind of emotional for me. My dad went to prison, and he stayed there the next 12 years anyway. So, when a couple divorces, the wife, the mother, will get child support or alimony. When a husband dies, the mother will commonly get life insurance. When a husband goes to prison, the mother gets shamed and goes on welfare. So, I was thrust into welfare, he said. I know what it's like to go to bed hungry. So if I ever have to deal with folks that say we care, believe me, I understand what they're caring about. Anyway, my mother couldn't handle this by the time I was age 12, so basically I went into an orphanage with my sister and younger brother. And I stayed there till I graduated high school. Now you hear a lot of people say that if you're born into a lousy situation that you can't make it. Well, many of you know I retired as a colonel in the U.S. Army. My last significant job, I was a senior intelligence officer for NATO and Balkans for a year. So anybody can make it. Anyway, now that I'm in that position, of course my first job is to support Debbie. But my thoughts about the position is that we need to make our party more inclusive. As I look out here, there are various shades of skin I don't see. I want to see them. because we offer a way for so many people to have a better life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well. I would like to ask for unanimous consent on this motion to elect Mr. Goldberg to this position. The close, oh, excuse me, I'm so interested in what was just said that I have.
We need a motion.
I think we had a motion to close nominations.
That's
and it was-
done. Madam Chairman, I would
Yes,
move,
Mr. Seekins.
I would move that we cast a unanimous ballot for the position for Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you very much. That's what I was asking for as well.
Second.
Second.
We have had a request for unanimous consent.
I'll take it.
She said it first.
And we have the second. So would everyone please concur by a hearty aye on that motion, please? Aye. All right.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. We have a unanimous. There was no one opposed.
Madam
Was
Chair,
there?
just
Yes.
to add some drama, we just got an email from Mr. Millette saying that he's going to be appealing his decision against him.
Of course he did.
Yes, you can. But before we move on to anything such as that, could we please just give a very hearty, warm welcome to Mr. Goldberg? Thank you very much. All right, that being done, we will move ahead in the agenda, and at such time that a phone call comes in to hear something from Mr. Millette, we could maybe try to do that. At any rate, we're moving ahead in the agenda. We have now applications and appointments, and I would like to speak to that myself here as we get going. I have some sorting out to do with regard to the rules, as the rules apply to the various positions in the party that are appointed by the chair and concurred upon by the central committee. I will admit that there are some actions that took place shortly after the 2012 convention, where there was a meeting of the central committee immediately afterward, which is the tradition, which is the proper way of proceeding, okay? And at that meeting, there were appointments made. Now, the minutes from that meeting were only recently approved, so those of you that read those minutes have those minutes as to what occurred at that time with regard to former Chairman Rudrick making those appointments at that particular moment after the 2012 convention, session number 1. And then, and so I admit that we may need some legal counsel just to sort that all out, and which appointments I may or may not proceed to change out. Okay, that's something. But I want to say that I with any new administration, whether it's at the governorship, please expect changes. And I just want you to know that I mean no disrespect in anyone's direction, but that I have appreciated everyone's service over all of these many years in the various capacities. But I will be bringing forward appointments, fresh faces with skill sets that are just, different. And this is to no surprise. To no surprise. A chairman must lead. And yesterday I did say that I realize that our rules state that the executive committee and the chairman serve at the direction of the central committee. Understood. Also, I want you to understand that I am a leader. I've known that I'm a leader. I have been a leader, and I intend to be a leader for this party. And I ask for your respect and support in my position as chairman to allow me to lead. And as the gentleman spoke to us last night at the Lincoln Day dinner, the special speaker, it was very motivating. And we have an opportunity to have some new faces to serve and to do a good job. So I will be seeking applications, and I want you to know right now, if you have an interest, if you have skill sets as a volunteer to serve in this party, please, I'm with this statement requesting that you just simply email me a letter. It's just a letter of interest. It would be your letter of interest or application. That's all it is. I'm seeking input from you where you believe that you would be a good fit in service at the executive committee level or in the central committee in the various positions. And so please consider that and send them to me. And my email address is, the one that I'd like to receive this to is DB, my initials for Debbie Brown, simply db@gci.net. So jot yourself a note, db@gci.net. And thank you for please submitting your interest. And then furthermore, in addition to the applications, I would like to list some names now of appointments that I'm going to start with legal counsel and ask for your support in concurring with my nomination of Mr. Ken Jacobus, attorney law, who has been a long-time Republican, and I feel that he is a good fit for this because of his past service as party legal counsel and his understanding of transitional matters and so forth. And so Mr. Ken Jacobus, I have a sheet that I'd like to hand out about him, and I think it's...
Actually, I put it on the table outside.
Oh, very well, very well. If it was on the table, please refer to that. But I would like to ask for a motion to that effect as soon as we hear from Mr. Rudrick.
I move that we confirm the chair's appointment of Ken Jacobus as party counsel.
Second, 28.
Thank you, Mr. Tarianen, for the second. Any discussion on the matter before we vote?
My understanding that our current legal counsel has resigned.
That is a fact. There was an email that was received by many, but it is well understood that Mr. Fitzpatrick has submitted his resignation, and we appreciate him and his years of service. You know, it's a good thing to take turns. You know, it's a lot of extra work, but we thank him for his service to the party as well. So if we're all ready to vote, and I appreciate your support for Mr. Ken Jacobus, please reflect your concurrence with my nomination by saying aye. May we hear from you.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Jacobus. You are now, if you're online, Mr. Ken Jacobus, you are now our legal counsel. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve. Okay, secondly, I have a finance chairman position that I would be filling. And a very fine woman whose name is Judy Elledge. I have asked to serve in that capacity, and she's well skilled in this area and is willing to take on the role of trying to assist in putting together a team. We're going to try to put together a team to really focus on the grassroots and getting out some support for the party. So Judy Elledge would be my nomination, and I would ask for a motion for Judy Elledge.
I so move. Rich Diesel.
Second,
Mr. Diesel brought the motion forward, thank you, and the second, Mike Tarianen. And so Judy has a fundraising background and she enjoys it. She knows what she's doing, but we're going to be asking for some support team to that effect. You can expect maybe a phone call from Judy or myself.
What did
Discussion.
What is she for?
Her position would be finance chairman. Now, this is not a regional
Is it a
chair.
new position?
No, it is not a new position. It is the position. Okay.
May I
Is this?
ask, is this the position that Russ Millett had, am I correct?
Yes. In the capacity, yes. The progression of things, that's true, and the position is now vacant. And I have proposed, we've got a motion on the floor to have Judy Elledge fulfill that role, and I think she would do a good job. I'd look forward to working with her.
District 2, I'll second that.
Yes, and thank you for that second. We have a motion and a second. Can I have support in the form of unanimous consent for Judy, please? All in favor, say aye. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I don't know the answer to this, but I'm not sure the position exists because in effect, the finance chair was a position that the chair-elect is appointed to for the interim period. To the best of my knowledge, and we probably need to confer with our parliamentarian, in my reading of the rules,
It's real.
it's real.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I hope you misspoke.
Excuse me?
I hope you misspoke.
Oh.
You said the finance chair was going to work with the grassroots to encourage volunteers.
Not exactly, but
Please restate that. It needs to be rewoven.
the finance chairman position is predominantly to work on fundraising activity. And so inevitably, when you host events and you put on fundraising events, special events, it takes a group of people, of volunteers, to do it essentially. And so that's all I was trying to get at. It's not, you don't do it by yourself. Okay, we are a party. We're going to do these things together. So this position will be working closely with the regional finance chairs. Mr. Roberts.
Okay, so to address the prior comment in Article 6, you've got committees of the State Central Committee, you have the Finance Committee. And so the State Finance Chairman is the chairman for that committee, and he's listed in Section 2 of Article 6 as a member of the SCC, State Finance Chairman. And I believe that was in there before the legacy rule that we were operating under came about. Welcome to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think it clearly shows that we have a Finance Committee, and any committee should have a chair, and that chair serves on the SCC.
I believe that is correct, and we absolutely need an active, functioning, productive. We are going to be really laser focused on that, and we're going to go straight to the grassroots. It's a part of what many of us know needs to be done. We are ready to vote, and so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
He just called the question.
No.
He just called the question.
We had a hand.
Oh, excuse me. All right, if you'll allow me to please back up. Hold on. I don't want to have anyone feel like they didn't have. If all that happened at the same time, please just allow me to back up. Hold your vote. Hold your vote. Did we have a call for the question? All right. Mr. Diesel called, and all right. So we have a call for the question, which means we'll cease debate. Could we just vote on that, please? We had a call for the question. The gentleman, Mr. Diesel, acknowledged that he called for the question, and we have a second from Mr. Steve Straight. So which means we're going to vote on this, and if it passes, we will cease debate. All right, so let's have a motion on that. If you're in favor of ceasing the debate, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
No.
Very well. We will continue debate. Anyone wanting to debate? Miss?
This is not debate. Or I would like to speak to the nomination. It's my understanding, and I've known Judy forever. When I was president of the Federation, she was one of my club presidents. Judy just accepted, correct me if you're an Anchorage Republican Women, she just accepted another term as president of Anchorage Republican Women. There is no harder job than being president of what arguably would be Anchorage is our largest community, the Anchorage Republican Women. And I was shocked when you said that, because I see this as you're looking for new people and grassroots and all of that, and this is going to one of our women who just got reelected to be president of the Anchorage Women, and I'm a little surprised by this.
Well, thank you, Judy. Judy is fully aware of her responsibilities, and as many of you know, sometimes some of us really push the wire and are willing to serve and do the job. Some of us work more than one job. I mean, plenty of you people have experienced that. I know I have. Now, I really would like to ask for your support, and we will let Judy sort out her personal priorities. I trust that she's making that decision in the best interest of this party. And so, Mr. Shedda?
Rise just a comment. I I think the position that we're talking about as the finance chair is somebody that goes out to our larger donors or comes up with mechanisms to raise money for the candidates that we're going to promote. I kind of wonder if, no offense to the Republican women because they're a part of the group, but it seems like there would be a sort of divided attention between her responsibilities to help raise money specifically for the women, which is, we all know how successful they are in all their endeavors, far more so than the party is on a regular basis, I would say. Then you have the responsibility of raising money for the party as well. So I think although she's very capable of doing that, it just sort of divides the attention, and I appreciate your nomination of her, and I think she's very capable. However, I can speak against it because I think there would be a concern there.
Well, thank you. And
You have this is Conference District 2. Are you suggesting that she is not capable and competent of doing this position as a woman?
Rex, would you care to clarify that? Rex, you called on the line here. A little closer, Rex. We want to get this on the record.
I have absolutely, ma'am, I have absolutely, if I can answer your concern, I am a loyal husband, I have a very strong wife, and I would be murdered if I ever thought something like
I think he's saying he doesn't really believe that, so thank you for your comment. Anything further? All right, we've got a lady out here, Ms. Linda, please.
I think for clarity of the issue, it should be called fundraising chairman and not finance chairman, because that, in my mind, it denotes more being a treasurer than handling of all the money. So, and I'm an accountant.
Linda, you weren't being heard, but essentially, Linda was saying that the name of the title is sometimes might cause people to misunderstand exactly the functions of this position. What Linda was saying is that this is sort of a fundraising lead position. We want to call the title of this position, but we need people with experience in fundraising, and Judy has that, and I have confidence in Judy, and we'll be looking forward to working with Judy, so I ask for your support. Any further comments, and we're going to wrap this up because we got to roll on making our already approved deadline.
Just to clarify, Madam Chair, in the rules it says the state finance chairman and the state finance committee shall be responsible for raising funds. So it is a title that's in the rules, and it's correct to call it that.
Very well. Judy, is Judy Helledge online?
Yes, I am.
Judy, would you like to speak before the gentleman who's asking? Judy, you're online. Please say a few words in your own.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone's concern about my ability of what I can and cannot do. I will say that most certainly I thought long and hard about this when Debbie called and asked me. But I do think that we need to form a strong team around Debbie. I served on the SCC for many years. Most certainly the entire time, except till recently, I served as a district chair and also as president of the Women's Club. I most certainly assisted fundraising this year with both the House and Senate. You can talk to any of them. We did everything we could help do with their fundraising and likewise, so I don't see a conflict there. I have a very strong team around me in Anchorage, and I don't really see a problem. We have all kinds of fundraising going on all the time. What we're trying to do is raise money for the Republican Party and hope that whichever fundraiser you go to, if it's a Republican event, you will raise money. That is, I've spent my life going to fundraisers regardless of who put them on. So believe me, if I had any problems with this position, I would not have a problem with it. And I have seen many of us serve 1, 2, or 3 different positions in this party over the years, just like this one. So those are my comments. I'm committed to help Debbie and help this party raise money.
Thank you very much. Gentleman in the back, and then we'll prepare to vote.
Yeah, I'm just curious about under Judy's leadership. My name is Ben Moore.
Ben Moore is speaking from the back of the room. He's coming forward.
It's not that big of a question. I'm wondering, under Judy's leadership of the Anchorage Republican Women's Club, if their fundraising has gone up or down over her tenure in leadership there. Has she shown success in her previous position that she can bring to us here?
Yeah, I don't have that. I know that we raised and gave $24,000 this past election cycle, and I believe the one before was closer to $30,000. So I couldn't tell you in past history, but I do know what we have given over my tenure, and it has probably been close to $70,000.
We have the lady right here. Yes,
Barbara.
One moment, please. We have a lady here presently, and then we'll come back to the online. Thank you.
Ginger Johnson, and I'm the prosecutor on the Royal. My question is, before we started this process, you talked about wanting people to apply, that you had positions that were open, but as near as I can tell, you really don't. Because then you've gone on to say you have all these people lined up for these positions. So was that a true call for people to volunteer to be in leadership positions?
Yes, with the exception of the ones that I'm bringing forward right now. And I will add.
So what would they be?
I will add that if there's anyone in the room, would you please raise your hand right now if you have any interest in this fundraising position? Raise your hand right now if you're planning to apply. Steve Straight's planning to apply?
I'm rising to ask for a paper ballot.
Anyone interested in the position in this room or online of the fundraising lead position for the party, state level? I don't see any here. Anyone online?
Point of order.
But thank you for that. And Mr. Straight, what was your question again?
Just asking for a paper ballot on this election now. Chairman?
I don't know that that's necessary.
I'll second that.
Point of order.
Very well, very well. We have a motion, then we have a paper ballot.
And who was the second?
And,
Okay.
okay, all right. Okay, let's see. Christie will distribute. All right, motion on the floor. I would ask for this motion to be defeated and then let's just have a voice vote. But could we have the, all in favor? All in favor of the motion? We have a motion and a second and we're going to vote on the motion. Are we not?
Point of order.
We're going to vote on Mr. Steve Straight's motion. We have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded by Mr. We have a legitimate motion on the floor. It's to whether we're going to have paper ballots or not. And so, all in favor say aye.
Point of order.
What is it, sir? Who has the point of order?
For elections of people, if one member calls for a paper ballot, then there needs to be a paper ballot. This
is actually,
it's not debatable, Madam Chair.
I have a question for the parliamentarian. There's been I'm simply making an appointment here. It's not exactly an election. It's just a concurrence. Okay. Ms. Parliamentarian, we've had a motion on the floor, and we haven't even voted on it. We have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor. How many people would like to vote on the motion that's on the floor?
It doesn't need a vote.
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
I haven't made a ruling.
Yes, you have.
I haven't made a ruling.
Yes, you have.
We have a motion on the floor.
I appeal that ruling.
That there's a motion on the floor?
It's a simple request which you must grant.
There was a motion made, and then Mr. Schulte seconded it.
Point of order, can we consult the parliamentarian, please, on this matter? Thank you.
All right, excuse the level of the volume. I'd like to just kind of back it down. It's not comfortable for me. Okay, but I do know that I heard a motion, and Mr. Schulte seconded the motion. Whether that was an appropriate motion or not is another question.
It wasn't a motion, it was a request.
It was a request.
It's my understanding, Ms. Raygor, it is my understanding, because I'm standing here in the room, that a motion was put forward, and then Mr. Schulte seconded the motion, and it had to do with paper ballots on the nomination of Judy Elledge to the finance chairman position. And at this point, I believe, if I'm understanding Mr. Friedrich correctly, that simply because I acknowledged the motion, that he's ruling that I made some sort of a ruling, and I don't believe I made any ruling. I'm just asking the body to vote on the motion. So could I have your help with this matter, please?
Because of all of the discussion that's going on. So you need to have control of that room.
Thank you. We will work on that.
Okay, it would be nice if one person would speak at a time and would be addressed, and therefore we could hear.
Thank you. We will work on that.
This is the appointment that you are making, is that correct?
That is correct.
That is made must be confirmed by the SCC.
Correct.
All right.
And it's been moved and seconded.
Negative.
Negative.
Point of order. It is.
Body will choose how they select to approve your selection. So they may choose to do it by open vote, or they may choose to do it by ballot.
Very well.
You have made your appointment. If you want to do one at a time, that's fine. If you want to make a list of appointments that you're going to make and have them do it, that's fine also.
Robert's Rules of Order require a motion to be approved by a majority for a ballot.
Mr. Seekins, would you read that right out loud, please?
Article 8, Robert's Rules of Order is on a motion for a ballot vote would require a motion and a second, and it's not debatable, must be approved by a majority vote.
That's pretty correct. So that's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. And
Madam Chairman.
we have... One moment, please. May I review? Judy Elledge, that motion to approve her nomination was moved and seconded. All right, so I'm starting to grasp Mr. Riedrich's ruling of this other motion about the ballot. Thank you. I'm actually picking up on, even though you didn't exactly help me all the way, but I'm getting it now. So because we have the motion for Judy, please. There's a motion on the floor. We will allow for paper ballots. The paper ballots will be distributed now, and then we will vote on the motion that's on the floor for Judy Elledge to take this position as the finance chairman. Thank you, Christy, for... Thank you for... Yes, the gentleman online.
This is Jim Norcross, District 7. The gentleman that just referenced Robert's Rules of Order. What do the Republican Party rules say?
I don't believe they address it.
Is that covered in our rules?
Apparently it's not addressed in the party rules, as far as anyone in the room can recall. Now, so thank you, Christy, for distributing those.
If you have a vote, please put one hand in the air. If you have two votes, please put two hands in the air.
Point of order, Madam Chair, point of inquiry.
And I will go row by row. So.
Point of inquiry, Madam Chair.
Yes,
just to clarify the voting process, as I understand it, and if you could just reaffirm, a vote yes means to confirm Ms. Eldridge. A vote no means to not confirm. Is that your understanding? Just on the voting process.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.
Thank you.
And we'll get to be apprised that. I very much would appreciate.
No debate.
No debate.
No debate.
Very well. Very well. Very well. No debate. Zip.
Point of order, Madam Chair. There was a question asked previously of how many other appointees you have on a list.
I guess we're not allowed to say a peak, Kat, until we get this done. So I guess we're just not going to think or say anything for a little while, and then we're going to vote. Okay.
For the people on the phone, if you could email your vote to the secretary, you should have her email address when she sends out the agendas to you. So you can reply to her email is up, and we'll come to vote that way.
Would that be secretary at
That's it. You're voting on whether or not to accept Judy Elledge as the finance chair of the party. So yes vote would be to accept her, and no vote
actually show up. So.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Are these all vacant positions?
Well, I truly like in a way that you can relax more, in order to take the email vote and also count, this would be a great time just to take a recess, a 10-minute recess. Let's just go 10 minutes from right now. And the time is 9:20. We'll see you all on the half hour. Back in here in 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully people
And fell to the floor.
If you want to look at the
How many are on each?
there's supposed to be 3 people on the phone. I don't mind it.
Yeah, that's one pair. Oh, here's this other pair. Sort of. It's like if I have some that work better, some are. I expect. I was there. I will not surprise me. Let's hope.
Everything down here is
It's 9:30, so we're back in session. Our recess has come to close. We're back in session. It's 9:30, and we're going to have an announcement of the vote, if we may. Could you hold that question, or would you?
No.
Very well, sir. Come forward with
order.
it. Yes, sir.
The purpose of the ballot was the secrecy of the paper ballot, as I understand it, correct?
Yes, but we need to know the outcome.
Then how did you get an email as a secret ballot?
Well,
I'm not revealing.
The secretary and the assistant secretary are not revealing any of that information forward to the body. Furthermore, when the assistant secretary and the secretary count the ballots, they have to open the ballot. They have to count the ballot. So
It don't have their email address on it. I've just sent my ballot, but it's not a secret ballot anymore.
we appreciate your thoughts on that matter, but we're going to go ahead and announce the vote, and we'll see if we can come up with a way to help those online vote secretly without revealing who they are. We'll have to contemplate that for a bit. But thank you. I really sincerely want you to know. But we're going to hear the outcome of the vote right now, so please let's proceed. Oh, we have one more person online with a comment. Yes, ma'am?
I do not believe that Mr. Strait asked for a secret ballot. He asked for a paper ballot. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
I really can't tell you, but I believe that was the concept involved. So that we're proceeding appropriately, and we're going to ask for we're going to have this information presented now. So please hold your comments until we hear the outcome. Very well.
After counting the ballots and having them observed and verified, we have 40 nays and 25 yeas, so the nays have it.
Very well. The nays have that, and I will ask you at this time to please submit your interest in this position. It's a position that our state party needs, and therefore, I will be bringing back another name, maybe the same name, and we're going to keep going at this but it is to the disadvantage of our party, in my opinion, the longer that we fail to fill this position, just as other individuals have rightly mentioned that we need other positions, such as vice chairman, treasurer, on and on. So this is the success or failure of our party as we move ahead. I would like to now offer forward, to the sake of time, I would like to move directly into the position of treasurer and assistant treasurer together. Again, I must repeat, this is no disrespect to any of the previous service, but I believe that is my job, and what I believe I've been hearing is that we should have some fresh faces and that we should immediately proceed with these nominations so that we are in proper form. We cannot be without a treasurer or an assistant treasurer, and these are the names that I am offering for nomination. Please accept. Treasurer, Julie Ham, Masters of Business Administration, 20 years accounting experience in her professional field. And that would be for the treasurer position. Julie Ham, District 8. Also, Assistant Treasurer, Ms. Liz Vasquez, Assistant Treasurer, District 20. And I would appreciate both of those names being brought forward together, and I would appreciate your support. May I have a motion to...
Point of information.
Yes, sir.
Would you please refer to the parliamentarian on your proposed activity? I request Ms. Rager to comment to this.
And also, if Mr. Ken Jacobus legal support is online, if we may be asking for your perspective on that, Mr. Jacobus. Also, Ms. Pam Rager, if you have given some thought to this, would you please let us know your thoughts on this matter? The appropriateness of the appointments.
Could you be more specific? What are you asking? Are you
I believe the question is, per the appointment of treasurer and assistant treasurer at the 2012 convention time frame, are those appointments locked in for the duration of, I believe he means the term, which I believe would be 2012 to 2014?
Convention.
And so that is the question.
I do believe that those appointments that were made that were specific to the chair's privilege following the 2012 convention hold for two-year term, which means the end of the next convention in 2014. Now, if I remember correctly, there were not all of the chairman's privilege positions were appointed at that point in time. So those are open for you to put forward. The only exception would be if, as in Mr. Fitzpatrick, who withdrew his name, or if for some reason there was, some egregious behavior that may have occurred in any of those positions, then that can be revoked, but that would again have to go under kind of a...
Now, are your comments are Robert's Rules of Order focused, yes?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Now, what about the fact, I have a follow-up question. What about the fact that there is a new chairman, February 1?
Right, and I think that was addressed at the time because at the time the chair-elect would be, my understanding is the chair-elect would be the chairman in February 1, which was still in that time frame. And I do not see anything in here that shows an exception to that.
What about the fact that the appointments serve at the pleasure of the chairman? It's not there. It does not say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pam?
I don't know about the fairness of it. All I can say...
No, I didn't say that.
This is the written rule of it. And the written rule was that it was a 2-year term.
Okay.
Meaning that the person should resign or there was an egregious misconduct that would stem from them having to be relieved of that duty.
Thank you. Is Mr. Ken Jacobus on the line?
Yeah, I was looking at articles, yes I am actually. Article 6, Section 7C of the rules specifically states, the state chairman shall appoint the chairman of each standing and special committee. An SCC majority must approve these appointments at the SCC meeting immediately after the state convention. Okay, so you got your approval. But then the next thing is, these chairmen serve at the pleasure of the state chairman. So it would seem like the state's chairman could change these appointments as he or she seems fit, but then again, they would have to be approved by the SCC. But it specifically does say these chairmen serve at the pleasure of the state chairman.
Standing committees.
Is that specific to standing committees only, Mr. Jacobus, or is it your evaluation that that pertains to the treasurer, assistant treasurer, and other appointments?
That particular thing, that particular section refers to each standing and special committee.
Yes,
now,
Madam Chair.
I have to look at this a little
Article
further.
5, Section 14.
Very well. Very well.
Release anything.
Article 5, Section 14.
Mr.
Put on your
Seegan,
side.
Article 5, Section 14, just for reference.
Okay, let me look at that.
Paragraph B.
Paragraph B, apparently.
Say again, ma'am. Repeat.
514B.
The convention shall elect
people for 2-year terms. The state's treasurer will be appointed by the state chairman and approved by the SCC majority at the SCC meeting immediately after the state convention. I don't know, this is another example of unclearness in the rules, that it does not approve the SCC majority and SCC meeting immediately after the state convention. That probably question should be referred to the rules committee probably.
Very well. I think we've reached a point of understanding to the point that we are able. We have a number of hands here that have been raised. So, Ms. Loikta?
Yeah, I think this needs to be clarified. When things were changed to where the chairman didn't take effect immediately, this was overlooked. I think the entire point in the state of Alaska for having the treasurer appointed as opposed to elected is because of the financial liability that's taken on by the chair. And the chair should be able to appoint someone which they trust. That was the understanding.
Point of information. The treasurer has direct financial responsibility to the FEC, the chair does not.
Thank you for that clarification.
The treasurer has direct responsibility to the state also, to the APOC.
Okay.
The treasurer doesn't, the president does not.
Point of information.
All right, now, we have Mr. Seekins and then Mr. Straight.
Just a point of information.
Mr. Seekins?
Yes, it's my understanding that if the appointment that's made by the state chair immediately after the convention, that those people that become then members of the state central committee, which would be the treasurer, the assistant treasurer, etc., that those appointments are for 2 years and they would expire only at the next convention under the rules.
This is the interpretation of the rules process, okay? We have a varying,
and I think I can come up with that rule.
Let me just tell, if I may editorial.
No, point of information.
I'm not taking.
Point of information for the chair
Yes.
editorializes.
Okay. Mr. Straight.
A point of just clarification. Has the current chair or current treasurer resigned, or the assistant treasurer? I just need some information here. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, I would just like to add, no disrespect, please. I am just trying to put together an administration that I feel, if you read further in the rules, and I will just say, this is my expression. It says, the state treasurer and assistant state treasurer should be technically well experienced in accounting, which they are, which I'm not calling into question, okay? But I also believe that it's the most appropriate moment in time that I can comprehend in all my years, over 30 years of participation in the party. This is the most appropriate moment for when you have a change in leadership, to allow the leadership to put in place individuals that to build maybe a different but strong, excellent, capable administration. And so I intend to behave with all of the skill sets that I can bring to this position. And I have management background. I have experience in business administration myself. So I'm going to do the very best that I can. And so that is the reason that I'm just asking to allow some new people to serve that are well qualified. And we have the 2 names that I put forward in this category. We've heard the position. I don't believe we've had a motion I was asking for a motion, now that we've discussed all of the legal and the parliamentarian input and so forth, I still would like to ask for a nomination of the treasurer and vice chair, the 2 names I mentioned, and ask for a second. May I have a motion, please?
I request we move to the orders of the day.
Mr. Roberts.
Orders of the day.
So, on the prior discussion, just like as we see many times, locally in our government, we're trying to get our directors at the pleasure of the mayor. We're working on the process because almost every other city in the state does that in borough. and the governor, you know, if he moves up, the lieutenant governor moves up to governor in the middle of the term, he has that authority to reappoint his directors. That's how the process works with the chairman. And they should always be able to set their appointments because it's the teams that they're working on building. And in regards to that, I would make a motion to approve your appointments for treasurer and secretary.
Point of order, this is a motion out of order, speaker's out of order. We're on the orders of the day, we're beyond this.
We are actually in the orders of the day, gentlemen. We are, according to the agenda, we are on precisely the agenda that was offered by the gentleman and approved by the body. We are on the orders of the day precisely. And so, may I thank you for the motion and the second. Is there any further discussion on the two appointments?
I don't understand, Madam Chair, how we can make a motion to appoint someone when there's somebody currently in the position, unless there's a motion to dismiss them.
This is an appropriate location for this to take place because we have a resolution following this that will deal with the signers of the resolution pertaining to the banking. So it's just an appropriate. If these folks are put in place as my appointments and you approve, that will become those will be the positions that will be filled, and they will take the appropriate position.
So you are dismissing the other two? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, essentially, these are replacements for the ones that have been previous.
So
yes.
Point of information. Point of information. You must remove them by Robert's Rules process.
This I believe will take care of it. Just a straight up or down. I believe.
No, Robert's Rules require.
I'm not certain that these are appointments. We just read the rules.
And you ignored them.
Not exactly.
I call the question.
Point of order.
Thank you. We have a call for the question.
Point of order, Madam Chair, that motion is out of order. It's on the floor. It violates the ARP rules. It's out of order.
How is that so?
Because we've already pointed out the rules. You cannot dismiss.
A call for the question is not an out of order motion.
The question's on the motion. The motion's out of order.
We have a motion and a second. It's a legitimate motion.
It is legitimate.
Call for the question. It's not. No, sir. No.
Overrule the chair.
Why is that? Thank you.
Steve Strait is called to overrule the chair on this matter.
Again, I'm not certain. The call of a question, it seems to me, following a motion
Can we move to overrule
to
the
end
chair?
discussion.
There's been no second to the call for the question.
Yes, there was. Dawn, did you second that motion for the calling of the question?
We need to vote. Yeah, we need to vote.
We have.
No debate.
Seconded
No debate.
the original motion.
The appeal of the chair is non-debatable.
It's an appeal to the chair is not debatable.
I'm not sure exactly. Mr. Ruder, could you explain exactly what it is that you're trying to overrule me on? I've made no ruling.
You're trying to proceed with an election which has no basis. Your entire setup process is being appealed. Allow the body to vote on Steve's appeal and take this matter off the floor.
Now,
Deborah?
we have a motion on the, yes, sir.
The gentleman objects to the consideration of the motion because he believes the main motion was out of order. You ruled that your opinion was in order. He objected to that ruling and appealed it and asked for a vote on whether that motion was in order or not. That is what
Very well, very well. Okay. Excuse my misunderstanding of it. It seems like there was a lot of people talking at once there, so excuse me. Very well, let's vote on that motion. In favor?
Can you repeat that
motion, please?
The gentleman in the back just clarified for all of us.
No, you need to raise the chair.
You'll vote. Those in favor of upholding the opinion of the chair will vote yea. Those who object to that will say nay.
Does everyone understand the nature of the motion?
And the opinion is your opinion that this election should.
Yes. Do you, Kat? You're the one who asked the question. I do.
Could you restate it, please?
Okay. There is a motion on the floor to essentially overrule the chairman, in my opinion, that the motion that was previously made is an appropriate motion.
And a vote yes.
So,
Vote yes would overrule.
yes
a
vote
no
means,
would
so if you wish to overrule on that matter, vote yes. Does everyone understand the nature of the motion? And thank you to the gentleman in the back. May I call for the vote on this question, if everyone understands the question?
There's some questions on the phone.
Are there questions, further questions?
Could you please re-clarify how we're voting on yes and no?
I'll do my best. There was a motion made to approve nominations of Julie Ham to the position of treasurer and Liz Vasquez to the position of assistant treasurer. That motion was moved and seconded. Subsequently, Mr. Straight, and I ruled that motion appropriate. Then Mr. Straight ruled, following some discussion, that that was an inappropriate ruling on my part, legitimizing that previous motion. So that now we're being called, now what is occurring is because of my perceived error in judgment in recognizing that motion and second as legitimate, there's a motion to essentially overrule the chairman's decision on that matter. So if you vote yes on the motion that we've got on the floor right now, you will overrule my decision regarding the nomination of those two individuals to the treasurer. Is that clear?
Simple majority.
Please, is that clear? It's a simple majority vote. Is that clear to everyone now?
No, this is Karen Terry, District 12. You're the chairperson. The motion was made and seconded, and we should just vote on your motion.
Yes, but except for, you would think so, but there's been called into question that judgment, and so now we will vote on whether or not that was an appropriate ruling on my part, and it is the will of the body. So we're ready to vote. We are ready to vote. And may I have your votes, please? Just vote yes if you wish to overrule the chair. Vote no if you wish to go back to and vote on the motion to appoint the two individuals for treasurer and vice treasurer.
Madam.
May I call for the vote, please?
Let's do a show of hands because many of us have proxies and a voice vote would be totally inadequate.
I don't know how we're going to do that online.
The secretaries can take the vote. They have to do it anyway.
Okay, those of you online, would you please email your vote into the secretaries at this time? We're calling for the vote. Show of hands for the yes. If you're going to vote yes on this motion, please show your hand.
Yes.
One hand, or unless you've got two.
I have two.
Okay.
We're not surrendering.
And I'll have to count one more. Okay, now we're ready for the next. I'm sure we're ready for the next.
All right. Is there anyone opposed to that motion? Raise your hand. And email online if you wish. Very well. So we have reached, the decision was that the motion is ruled out of order by that vote. And so therefore, there is no motion on the floor at this time.
Madam Chair, I call for the orders of the day.
We have been on the orders of the day, sir. All right. There's a resolution on the agenda which was added to the agenda. It's a resolution And this was not provided in the materials, so this resolution does not exist that I know of, in the language of it or the text of it, but I guess it's going to come in a form of verbal. So a resolution, Mr. Downey, have the floor.
I move that the Gloucester Authority authorize the chair or vice chair and treasurer or assistant treasurer to be signers at the First National Bank. That would require 2 signatures, one of which could be chair or vice chair, the second of which could be the treasurer or vice treasurer. Pardon me? Yeah, well, for the state and federal councils.
Very well. Does everyone understand the motion?
Second, Steve.
And the motion has been moved and seconded. Very well. Any discussion on this motion?
Could you please repeat the motion?
The motion is essentially for the state and federal bank accounts at First National Bank, Anchorage, that the chairman or vice chairman and treasurer, assistant treasurer be placed as signers, and so there's 2 signatures required. And so among those 4 individuals, that 2 signers be that be handled in the immediate, essentially. That's the context of it. And we've had a second as well, so it's ready to roll.
I would like to make a friendly amendment.
What would that be? If we have an amendment coming forward, it's going to need a second.
I would like to make a friendly amendment to add the names of the individuals rather than just the titles to the motion, to include Debbie Holly Brown, designated as the chair, Peter Goldberg, designated as the vice chair, Glenn Clary as the treasurer, and Frank McQuarrie as the assistant treasurer in that formal resolution, so that the bank has names specifically rather than our recognized titles only.
I'll accept that amendment.
Seconds on board too.
Very well. We have a question online. Please bring that question forward.
Yeah, this is Karen Perry, District 12, and I disagree because obviously the same old people are trying to run the show. We have not decided if we're going to have a new treasurer or a new assistant treasurer, so I amend that motion that we do not put names on this.
It's going to require you to have names.
Is there that motion, that amendment would need a second?
So have to vote on the motion first.
I think the lady is simply just.
Out of order.
I'll second it.
Lance Roberts has seconded that motion.
Can I speak to it?
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
So all the bank needs is the minutes showing that we passed resolutions for those positions and the affirmation of who is currently in those positions. But we want the flexibility if someone passes away or goes away for some reason to not have to do a banking resolution, which may be in the middle of SCC meetings where we can't get to it right away, to be able to have somebody fill that position and be able to handle our banking needs.
And to your point of order, there was already a motion on the floor that we need to vote on before another motion.
No, it's an amendment.
It was an appropriate amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment? Sir Dave?
Yeah. I'm an accountant. I've worked with many nonprofit and organizations. They always ask for minutes, and they always want a name attached to who's the signer. I've been here since 1982, from 4-H Boy Scouts all the way up to Rotary. You have to have a name in the minutes as the signer. Correct.
Mr. Holt, did you have a comment follow-up?
Yeah, I confirm with Mr. Morgan that my background is banking, and the bank is going to want to see not just the title, but a name associated with that title. It's proven banking procedure.
Very well. We have an amendment on the floor that was to essentially not include names.
Point of order.
Could we
Madam
vote
Chair.
on that motion, please?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Sir.
That amendment, I would suggest that amendment is out of order, because if somebody doesn't want to vote to include names, just vote no. It's not an extra amendment that's required. Just vote no or vote yes on this, on the motion, and it's one amendment.
Point of order, I don't think that's correct.
All right, here we go again. I'm going to make a ruling that it was an appropriate motion because it was trying to get to just, to leave the positions in place and not the names. All right, you can just vote this one up and down and skip all of this other, okay? It's just one way or another. All right, so let's vote on the motion. Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment, the motion that addresses the amendment. The amendment basically says that there will not be there will be no names involved. Okay?
In the resolution.
In the resolution.
So we're voting on that amendment, yes. Okay.
Yes, this is the amendment to the motion. Does everyone understand?
So a yes vote means no names?
That's correct.
That is correct. Very well. If you're in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed to the motion,
Nay.
No.
the nays have it. Now we have the primary motion before the body, and that is simply that we need to have this resolution, and that we will have the position and the name. Very well. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Gentleman in the back.
Is it the intent of the maker of the motion that the title and the name go together so that if one person resigns or changes his title, that he's no longer going to be on the signature card? Would that be an appropriate question? So if, say, you resigned, Peter Goldberg moved into the chair position, both of you would lose?
Whoa, don't slow down.
Okay, say the treasurer resigns and we have no treasurer, and Mr. McQuarrie would move into that position. Neither one of them would be entitled to sign because the title changed. I know, but that's what I want to clarify.
I think that's a simple yes or no answer, Mr. Friedrich.
That's correct.
Right?
What is your answer?
I think that he's directing that question to you, the maker of the motion. I wasn't.
I didn't make the motion.
I didn't make the motion.
I made the motion.
Mr. Downing. There you are. Mr. Downing, the question is being directed to the maker of the motion.
What was the question now? What the title and the name both appear? Do you need both?
Well,
Madam Chair?
Just a moment, Ralph.
Whether or not in the motion that the title and the name appear as being signatory. Or just the name, what do we need?
No title and name.
Title and the name, there's the answer.
Follow-up question in the back. Yes, sir.
but the problem being with the history of the party is officers changing like a lot of people change their underwear. This may not work. We put in that with nobody with signature back.
All right, I think we've had most of the questions. All right, we're going to hear from Mr. Seekins, and then we're going to vote on this motion. Mr.
A very
Seekins.
simple answer to that would be, it would require a new resolution in order to put someone else on at that time. Very simple.
That can be done by electronic
And that
vote.
can be done by electronic. So that could be done by phone or by electronic. This would require a new resolution, which is not very difficult to do except this morning.
Use your imaginations, folks. Okay.
Madam Chair.
We are going to vote on this
Madam
motion.
Chair.
Sir?
This is incredibly minor. To the friendly amendment, please use my middle initial so the check doesn't bounce.
All right, we are voting on this motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? There may have been one opposed there. The ayes have it. Very well. We're moving ahead.
Point of information.
Yes.
The parliamentarian had contacted me by email because she couldn't get through on the phone that you can still make appointees to committees from the previous agenda item. So,
Thank you. At this time, I think that I have one other item in the form of making appointments. And I'm not doing this to punish you all, okay? I'm not doing this to punish you. It's my job. It's my responsibility.
Punishment.
And so, I'm going to move forward and make these nominations for a rules committee. And I would ask you for your support. Chairman of the Rules Committee, Mr. Lance Roberts. Member, David Eichler. Member, Randy Stevens. Another member, Chris McMullins. Another member, Mark Wilkie. Member, Pam Good. Member, Neil DePurin. This committee is configured so that the regions across the state feel as there's some conduit in the event that there becomes, a matter at the district level or concerns. And so I've also wanted to, as I have previously stated, I feel like I have responsibilities to bring forward in this matter, and so I would ask as a slate, a motion to approve this slate, please.
In your statement, you said you had, how many members are there in your rules committee?
7.
7 and a chair?
No, there should be 7.
Okay. Do you have Mr. Eichler and Mr.
One moment.
I have 7. 1, 2, and that includes your chair.
There's 7.
Okay. Mr. Roberts, Mr. Eichler are both from Region 1?
Correct.
And therefore some region does not have a member.
I don't know that that there has to be a member from each.
I'm just trying to address the comment you made.
Excuse me.
That each region would have.
I appreciate your thought on the matter. I don't believe it's set in the rule that that there must be like that. So that is my slate. I'm asking for a motion.
Move to confirm the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Tarian. And may I have a second, please?
Second, on basis 6.
Thank you very much. I just would appreciate your support for this rules committee so that we can move ahead with some matters that will be forthcoming, which may involve a fair amount of time. So we need a rules committee, and I appreciate your support. Any discussion on the matter before we vote? Ms. Gentleman in the back.
Yes, I could be wrong, but I suspect that the Region 4 does not have a member.
Madam Chair, I cannot hear.
I may be wrong. This may be more of a clarification as much as discussion. I believe Region 4 or Midtown, those 5 districts, do not have a representative on the Rules Committee under this organization. Am I wrong?
Let me go one step further. Pam Good is from Region 1 also. So you have 3 from Region 1. Would you please?
We have a motion on the floor to accept this slate of rules committee, and so I just would ask for.
Motion to table it. That's within the rules. This is Barber District 2. Is there a way to table this?
I believe there is always a table in order, and that would pretty much bring us to that motion right there. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
I wish to make a.
All right, we've got a motion to table this matter.
Non-debatable.
And it is non-debatable. So, we're ready to vote? All in favor of tabling this matter of the Rules Committee? All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Nay. No. Very well. The ayes have it. This matter is tabled. And we are moving forward on the agenda. At this time, we'll move into the report section of our agenda. Please make note of the time, 10:10. We'll now have the treasurer's report. You should, I'll just ask Mr. Frank McQuarrie to please come forward. He's the assistant treasurer in the absence of the treasurer, Mr. Glenn Clary. And I imagine that Mr. McQuarrie will refer to his paperwork that you've been provided with already.
Everybody should have actually 4, or at least 3 separate documents. One labeled the balance sheet as of December 31, 2012. Another that doesn't have a label on it, but is our equivalent of an income statement, starts with the revenues for 2012 and compares it to the budget. And the third document is, again, an income statement showing actual income and expenditure for 2012. I will start off with noting that at the beginning of the year, on our balance sheet, we had an opening of $11,279. We had raised retained earnings of $129,413. And over the course of the year, our equity basically had a negative $78,000 impact, which I will discuss on the revenue side and income side statement, leaving us with basically what would be called the retained earnings on a conventional or corporate balance sheet of $62,714. If you'll go to the second set of documents, which I referred to as an income statement, it shows our revenue for 2012 was broken down into a variety of categories, including all the fundraising for the elections, the Victory 2012 campaigns, income from the SCC meetings, income from the state convention, and income to a variety of other accounts, including ones that we maintain for districts and affiliates. Now, understand on those accounts, we're actually simply a fiduciary responsibility to help them maintain and report for both state and SEC purposes, so that they don't get into problems, which is quite expensive when we fail to report accurately. Our income in 2012 was aggregate was $738,728. Our expenditures were $817,371. So over the course of last year, our in fact equity in our Republican Party suffered an almost $80,000 loss. If you look up to the top of the second set of documents, the income statement, you will note where the majority of that occurred. On our RNC convention, we showed income initially of $103,067, but we refunded approximately $60,874 of that. So it was a real hit, and that had mostly to do with accommodations at the RNC convention. It's sort of chaotic down there and out of everybody's control. The good news is that a lot of money moved through the party, and if you, we couldn't print them out, the reports here, but we will send around some additional documentation, some pie charts, some diagrams to show exactly how much funds were spent. What I am pleased to tell you is that the party again operated with very low overhead. We had one full part-time employee, Christy Struts. During the campaign, we employed various contractors to help with some of the operations. Most of our get out the road operations were volunteer. So very little of this went into salaries and overhead. Most of it went directly either to campaigns or to pay mailing services, all of the things, the mechanical part of getting our Republicans elected that most people never see. Fortunately, we were in a good enough financial state that we were spending that extra $80,000 still left to solve. I have to say that the results, certainly in the state of Alaska, we need to be proud of. The other document, and I'll defer to Madam Chair, we prepared a preliminary. Oh, one thing that's probably worth looking at for you, because every year in order to operate, you have to, in addition to doing the housekeeping that you just did, to getting the account set up and signers on and whatnot, we also have to approve a budget, which means the people who have done this for a long time get together, scratch their heads, how many elections do we have, and how many candidates are we going to try to support, what's it going to take for us to operate, and we set a target amount of money based on how much activity is going to take place in certain areas. Now, this coming year, there aren't that. It's obvious it's not real election. We have, at least in my part, there's only one major election, and that's the municipal election, which requires quite a bit of activity. But for 2012, we started off with a budget of $360,000. What we actually ended up getting and spending was actually, I take that back, $694,000. The actual ended up being $738,000. And the expenses are all listed below. We ended up down $78,000 in equity. And we spent really over $100,000 more than we intended to, but it all went again to electing our candidates. If you look in the far right-hand column, you can see the delta between what our initial budget was and what we actually did. We unfortunately probably had considerably more RNC convention expenses, and again, that was associated with, Ralph, maybe you can comment on that. You were there and I wasn't. There seemed to be a lot of chaos at the RNC convention and problems with various
It was very chaotic. I would just say that, and there were some NSFs and some people that were double charged and some people that charged that didn't pay, and it was very, very difficult.
Well, the principal problem is we had over 3/4 of the delegation who had paid to be in the hotel, abandon the hotel and go somewhere else. Yeah. So we had to refund all the funds, which gave us a lot of work but no net revenue.
So if, and again, what we will do when we can get back to a computer that with our accounting software, prepare some pie charts and things that actually makes it very graphically obvious when very specific questions we have to try to address them broadly. Any questions that delve too deep in these individual item expenditures, we have to have the accounting software here to print out all the transactions go in. But overall, I think it was a very successful year. The results are apparent in the Senate, and hopefully they will be apparent at the end of the year with some productive economically sound legislation. Any questions?
I have a question, sir. With the so the nearly $80,000 problem, what are the thoughts on how we're going to move forward on the 2013 budget with a $80,000 problem?
It isn't a problem.
Okay.
It isn't a problem.
Can we have a little more clarification on that?
We maintain from year to year, if you go back to the balance sheet, it tracks, it basically keeps track of your equity, whether you have positive or negative equity. So at the beginning of the year, last year, we had a significant amount of equity because in
the form of
what's called retained earnings. So we had some cash, we had built up reserves for that. In the course of the year, we spent a lot of those reserves because it was an election cycle. So typically, even though this coming year we don't have a lot of elections, we're still going to try to raise a lot more funds than we need for this year because the following year is going to be another election cycle, and we're going to have demands on us to spend a lot more money than we're probably going to get. We'll try to get those revenues. So what we had an excess at the end of the previous year. We used up a lot of that excess, but we still have a positive equity.
Any other follow-up questions on the treasurer's report?
Move to accept as presented.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's report as presented. And any other discussion or comments on this before we vote?
One question from you, and that was whether you wanted to address this now, so we take all of the financial stuff off, because one of the things that's sort of necessary to be in business is that you have to pass a budget.
My motion is just for the 2012.
We'll just handle this motion individually from the 2013 matter of the budget, please. So we have a motion on the floor, and then I may call upon you for call for some addition to the 2013. Is everyone clear on the motion? And we're ready to vote on approval of the treasurer's report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Motion second.
It was
My motion second.
Mr. Goldberg, second. Ralph. Very well. Moving ahead on the agenda, it's simply that, I guess, well, we didn't move it up on the agenda, but, so, I guess, we did move that 2013 piece up, but.
Why don't you go ahead with it? I think the body understands that that's the right thing to do, so we don't have to go back to it. That's my suggestion.
You can rule that.
You know, I'll take a real big risk here and make a ruling to allow for the adjustment of this agenda, please, without, you know, frustrating anybody. I'd like to move that item up. It has to do with the 2013 budget, and so with your allowance, I'd like to do that right now. Done. All right, we're going to talk about the 2013 budget, and I would just like to comment on it, and then per my duties as chairman, it is my responsibility as chairman to bring forward a budget. This budget has been worked on and developed and submitted to us today. I would just like to welcome that budget in and then present it to you as chairman in appreciation of members that developed that budget, but I've reviewed it and I believe that we should proceed with it. Essentially, it's very much the same, except for you'll notice that it is an off-election year. So you will notice these certain areas where it is significantly diminished, or there are no line items whatsoever, because it doesn't make sense in a 2013 budget. Those expenditures are not required. So therefore, I would like to ask for a motion to accept the 2013 budget as presented. Is there a motion and a second, please? Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you for the second, Mr. Franco. And so, are there any questions or concerns about when you look under the budget heading and there's a little 13 beneath it, and then read along down through that column? That's what we're rolling forward here.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Some of us have not seen the budget or got one when we checked in here. Could maybe the secretaries email it out real quick here so that we could get a copy of it?
Right. There should have been 45 copies out there, but I don't know where they all went. But, sorry.
It was emailed out last week with the agenda.
Right on. Okay, so.
That is not true. Emailed on
Wednesday evening. Well, it might have been.
Well,
it was actually emailed previously as well.
No, it didn't exist previously.
I'm looking at the emails.
Okay, until then.
We're just resending.
Very well.
And what's your name? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it.
Oh, sorry, District 5 bonus vote, Cheryl Markwood.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'll give you a copy.
At any rate, we are there any questions? Are there any questions, Mr. Reed?
Actually, what's presented is a base budget to do the minimum necessary and attempt to create a net funds raised of $219,000 for what I call the building year. There is and that would be to accumulate mostly funds for the House and Senate, as folks like Gary and Lance and others have worked with us for years. There is an option budget that you may want to consider in the future. I don't know that you want to even think about approving it today. It's in your package. It adds the executive director for $7,000 a month to run party operations. It does not add near enough overhead to facilitate having that person on staff. So that's one of the reasons I'm not advocating doing anything with it right now. In part, the other challenge is finding a way to pay for it. I tentatively contemplated 4 events, each generating more money, but we would only wind up with a net increase in cash on hand at the end of the cycle, at the end of the half cycle, of $159,000, which means we would have spent about $30,000 of House and Senate money to pay for an ED, which is something we've never done. I wanted to introduce those thoughts to you today so that when you get ready for your May meeting and you want to entertain this, the situation will be somewhat different. In part, you can't hire the executive director for the 3 months that would have passed. Otherwise, there's also the issue of raising funds and coming to grips with all those things. So I recommend approving the base budget today and then spend some time thinking about the other plan and figuring out how to make it cash flow neutral or cash flow positive. Thank you.
And I would add that the events that Randy is speaking to are listed under the revenue section on the left: spring, summer, fall event, winter event, and then read accordingly there. Any other further questions about this base budget moving forward?
And one other thing, the item in there for state operations is related to an election. We have always, in the budget, to be consistent with past practices, buried the Get Out the Vote program for the Anchorage City election in state operations. It's reported to APOC, so it's a good place to put it, and I would recommend that we view that as a budget line item assigned to Bruce Schulte, who has agreed to be the victim to run the victory program for the city.
Any further questions on this foundational basis? Very well. We have a motion on the floor, and I believe we're ready to vote. So,
Point of clarification, was that a motion that the chair made to add?
no, it's all built into. Are you talking about the 25,000?
I'm talking about the municipal election and the Bruce Schulte.
That is listed in your budget under state operating account,
Okay.
and it's a $25,000 item there
Okay.
on your report. Okay, is everyone understanding? So, well, I believe we're ready to vote. So may I ask for approval? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The 2013 foundation budget is approved. And a budget is a working document, and there may be things that we bring forward in the future. All right then, on the agenda, we're moving to we are right up at chairman's report, and I just would like to say ever so briefly at this point, I do not have a report that reflects something that has been ongoing. I just feel like it's all pretty fresh in our minds. We don't need a reminder of what we've been doing for the last, let's say, couple of months. It's pretty ugly. But what I would like to report on is a vision that I have for the party. And I feel like you need to hear it just right from me right now. I feel as though, and what I've been observing, is something similar to what we have going on in the world and in our nation. And we've got it going on right here at home, and I'm very concerned about it. There's a lot of stress focused on one another inside the group, within our own group, and I feel that's very, very unfortunate and counterproductive to us. It reminds me of terrorism in a way. It's treacherous. It has a very severe undermining effect on our party. And what I observe happening in the state and across the nation are that there are groups that are forming to take our place. They're connecting with people. They're communicating with people. You see, we're a tool. Now, the advantage for the Republican Party of Alaska is that we're dovetailed into statute, to law. When you run as a candidate, you have to file as a Republican or the party of your choice. So that's to our advantage. However, what we're competing against, and what I believe that we need to compete against in a much, much smarter, kinder way, so that we can build this party and not lose to these other groups out there that are starting to crop up. People are actually, I mean, we've got numbers, and we can prove we've got excellent numbers. But We don't have a lot of people raising their hands to be the finance, to volunteer. We've got a core group of people, but I am very concerned that we're losing our grassroots, the real strength of this party at the district level, at the grassroots level. And I think that what I would like to see as my vision is to improve in the area of communications. And I'll brag on an organization, the Alaska Family Council. They're really getting out there. And they're putting out some excellent communications. They're encouraging people to participate. They're trying to get people involved so that they can voice what our party really would like to say. We can do similarly on a variety of issues. Excellent communications. We can do things better using technology to help us strengthen, because nowadays, folks, people just go get the information when they want it. They're not necessarily wanting to be force-fed. People go get it. So we can do more by enhancing that and making it easier for people to get information and really promote all of the platforms and the values that our party has, all of what people really want. It's just that I feel like we can do so much more to strengthen in the area of technology and communications so that we can reach out to the younger generation. And what I see in our party also, and we see it all over, is that we have an aging workforce. Our awesome people that we relied upon are getting older, and so it's hard for us to lose those talents and those skill sets. But we're going to have to be welcoming. We're going to have to be the party of diversity instead of the opposite thereof. And Mr. Goldberg spoke to that when he made his comments. He would like to see, and I agree, we should like to see a lot more diversity and a lot more new people want what our platform really stands for. And one thing that I feel that we need to do is that we need to let our faith, we are a people of faith. Our party stands for godliness. We need to bring that forward, because in these times, people are struggling and they need to reach to their faith and their roots. We have a lot of things that we can assist in that area. Our platforms speak to it, and I am a strong person of faith, and I want to encourage us in that way, to really not play down that aspect of our platform. Play it up. And our pro-life and our pro-family and a strong military and all of the like the gentleman spoke at the Lincoln Day dinner last night, pro-education, all of the excellent resource development, pro-business. We want to have people working and thriving. I'm convinced that the best way to save families is to have our young men and women working and proud about their jobs and earning money and being prosperous, so they have disposable cash. And when they have disposable cash, they're going to want to contribute it to their party that's doing them some good. But the problem with this party is, folks, we're not producing what people want. So they're not buying in. And we're not getting those $20, $50, $100 bills. We need that. We need more. But we're proud of our contributors, the ones that we have in the form that they're doing it. We're thankful. We're appreciative. But if we want to be the party that continues to lead, I just really would like, I want to try to help you understand my vision for the party and how I would like to provide leadership and work on and put together teams of people who will try to work with us to accomplish those goals for the betterment of all of us, for getting these good candidates and getting them elected. And if I understand the numbers right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the presidential election, Alaska had 41% of the vote that went for Obama, President Obama. Now I'm telling you that is precious close to us becoming a swing state if we don't get off the dime and start doing stuff about it. Think about that. Wouldn't that be horrible? That would be horrible. So, I mean, Mr. Rudrick probably knows those numbers. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe that those are the facts. That's something that we need to take steps to correct right now, or we'll be behind the game. So that is pretty much it for my chairman's report. I'll do my best but I would just really like to have you contemplate being supportive of some of my appointments in the future so that I might feel like I have people that would really like to work with me in the direction that I have this vision for. To really keep our platform up front and not lose it. We don't want to lose the strength that we have in our platform, because if we do, you can pretty much kiss our membership goodbye, and they're going to go to whatever group is out there that has whatever name that really meets their needs, and they're going to contribute there. And we're going to see a trickle down of what we have enjoyed in the past, and I'd sure hate to see that happen. I want to see this party move positively into the next 50 years, and that's what I want to contribute to for my own personal interests, which would be my grandsons, my family, and for all of our families collectively. There you have it. That's the end of my report. Ms. Becca, please.
Madam Chair, I just would like to say on behalf of Golden Heart GOP and the interior districts, welcome to the party. And we'd like to extend an invitation to you to come up to Fairbanks. And please know that my phone and my email are always open, and whatever support you need, I'm here for you. And the other chairs are also. And just for the record, there is diversity in the House. I'm not very tan because I haven't seen the sun. So I'm representing, Native women in the House.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Please note the time. It's 10:37, so we're really needing to march ahead here. And we're at the Republican National Committee member reports. Mr. Ralph Seekins, National Committee man, thank you for your report.
Just a point of inquiry. Early in your presentation, just to help clarify and assist the chairwoman here, I heard the word terrorism and party infighting in the same sentence, and I know that's not what. Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe it was misspoken. But if you could just clarify that, we have the press in the room, and I just think it might make an odd sound. That's my concern, Madam Chair.
I just feel like there are times when you feel like there are, you might sense that there are attacks kind of coming from without, and in our country, I think that there are concerns about, in our nation, that there are people with agendas that are trying to accomplish their goals and objectives to the contrary of our nation. And similarly, I think in our party, it feels to me like there may be some agendas going on in our party that may be to the detriment of what our party stands for. And to me, I connect that with a term that some may believe is inappropriate, but it's somewhat terroristic in nature. And so, I'm not accusing it. It's just a term that. So I don't want to.
Well, if I could tell you terrorist thinking, my 1-year-old grandson sometimes is a terrorist. I'll tell you that.
Right on. That's kind of. It's going to be, So that's what it is. But moving on. And thank you for the report.
Right.
Mr. Seekins has the floor, and we'll hold all questions until a little bit later.
Let me say that I appreciate the old people in the party. I'm getting to be one, and tomorrow is Aaron's 80th birthday. So, thank you for your many years of service to the Republican Party, the greatest party in the state of Alaska. I'm getting there.
Welcome.
When I was younger, I depended on the older people to be able to represent me because I was raising a family and I was making payments in my house and I was working my butt off trying to just keep above water. And some of the older people that have been there for a while, they were able to put time and effort into the party, and I appreciate that. So I'm not willing to get rid of all the old guys, even though I'm getting there yet. But I do appreciate the input that I get from my sons, my daughters, my son-in-laws, my daughter-in-laws, and all of them. And they're looking at us, all of us, no matter what our age is, to do a good job in representing the party. Thank you very much. My favorite Sioux Indian right back there. She does a tremendous job, but she's a lot younger than me. I can be her dad. But, so diversity in age as well. We need it all. We need everybody to be involved. So thank you. Debbie, are you online? I don't know if you got back online. I don't know if you wanted to give your report or if you want me to read it.
Hi, Ralph. I am online for a little bit here, but if you'll read it because I'm in a car and don't have it here with me.
All right. Okay. I can do that. I don't want you reading while you're driving here.
No, I'm in the parking lot, but my daughter's getting ready to give a
Yes.
on the 10th Amendment of the Constitution.
Debbie, I have to applaud Debbie because there was a family deal where her daughter needed her support today, and I appreciate that. And Debbie does a wonderful job as your national committee woman, as I'll give you in her report. But I'll part of it. She says, I'm sorry that she's not able to be with us today. She's with us in spirit and on the phone. But she hopes we're having a good, productive time down here in Juneau. I think we are. We're getting there. And she said, we just come through a time of change, upheaval in our state party. It's my hope we can put aside our differences, work together. I think we're doing that. And not only to hold on to the gains that we made this year, but to build on those. And taking back the U.S. Senate seat from Mark Begich and winning the governor's race should be the goals we share. Debbie was in Charlotte at the meeting. Alaska Airlines, the only time that I was trying to get out of Mexico and get to Charlotte, and I couldn't get out of Mexico for, well, it wasn't too bad down in Cabo at the time, but it was better weather there than it was in Charlotte. But I happened to be on a different flight, so I didn't get there for all of it. But to give you just a short do there, RSC really wants to strengthen the state parties, and we did re-elect our new chairman, our chairman that's been there before. And he wants to get us on a point where, as Ryan said, the biggest fundraiser is not the check from the RNC. The ARP will certainly need to raise a lot of money to help our candidates be competitive, but many states have the big fundraiser that comes in every year is the check from the RNC on our races. And we've got to get to the point where we are raising our own money and do a better job in our state. And that's part of one of the challenges that we have, is being out there and raising more money to do that. So as she said, we re-elected Reince Priebus and Sharon Day as the co-chair, our secretary, Dimitri DeMonte, and our treasurer, Tony Parker. We are also both re-elected, and Reince is announcing new appointments, which they can do every 2 years. Ray Washburn of Texas to our new National Finance Chairman, John Ryder, the National Committee Man of Tennessee, as our new legal counsel. And the selection of John Ryder to legal counsel is pretty significant there, in that he was instrumental in helping us fight the national popular vote these last couple of years, which Debbie got an almost unanimous resolution through the Republican National Committee to fight that very dangerous proposition. Each of the 4 regions has held elections for positions on various committees. Alaska is part of the Western region, which includes Colorado and pretty much everything west of it. In our region, Debbie was elected unanimously, along with Linda Ackerman, the National Committee woman from California, to the 9-member Resolutions Committee. Getting a unanimous vote there is pretty significant to do that. But Debbie's done a great job on resolutions and is recognized as such on the National Committee. So it's a great honor, she says, to be elected to this post. I'll do my best to be sure that we only pass resolutions that are in line with our platform, help to amplify our voice to faithful opposition to the extreme left as president. We should be hearing the dates, location soon for our spring RNC, which we'll be glad to bring Debbie along with us, and I'll have 2 Debbies, one on each side of me, and we'll introduce her to the people at the Republican National Committee, and we're looking forward to that sometime in April. It hasn't been announced yet. So the new 2012 RNC rules call for this meeting to be our 3rd business meeting of the year. My side of it, I'm on the Rules Committee again for the next 4 years, probably, and I enjoy the work on the Rules Committee. It's very interesting to be on the Rules Committee. We are going to be taking a look at some rules. There's some rules that were passed at the convention. Rule number 12 says that we can change with a majority vote from the Rules Committee and a 2/3 vote from the RNC. Any of the rules not have to wait until the next convention. There are 2 rules that will probably be changed back to what they were prior to the convention. Rule 16 and 17. You hear all kinds of false information about those 2 rules. Everybody's fighting against the rules as were proposed, not as were passed. They don't understand that they were amended. They aren't worded as bad as that they were first introduced, but everybody kind of still thinks that those that were introduced are the ones that were passed.
Can you tell us what those are?
They had to do with how votes were, it came down from, and basically it gave the candidate the opportunity to start putting people into delegate positions, which was something that we're going to go back to the 2000, I believe we will revert to the 2008 rules prior to that. And so I think...
which would be which way?
It's basically each state that has their rules. For an example, here we're a PPP state. We have committed delegates. Our committed delegates are committed through the first two votes, et cetera. Isn't that right, Randy, how they do that?
We have no rules now.
We have no rules now.
Yeah, because the rules were interim rules and they dropped.
They were
we have the privilege to reinvent.
So we have to go back. But we do, as the Rules Committee, it will be basically, we're going to go back to the 2008 rules. And you can look that up online.
Ralph?
Yeah.
I gotta say, I was very concerned. You know, I mean, people participated in a lot of states, and I think if they're going to do rules amendments on the floor of the National Convention, they should do it by a formal vote and not a phony voice vote. You've got people in those convention centers that aren't delegates.
I agree.
It was embarrassing this year. A lot of people dedicated a lot of time to become delegates, and then they just changed the rules by a voice vote. I think that's got to stop. And I'd like the last
process myself.
You know, it's a democratic process, and I just like the RNC to recognize that and keep that from happening again this year.
I think the Rules Committee understands that. We're going to attempt to look at how that's done, and I think that probably will be addressed. But it was not good, and I think the Democrats had the same problem if you watch their convention. So, you know, it's not a uniquely Republican problem. It was both sides, and it makes it very difficult when people in the stands who aren't delegates can also voice vote. And that has a definite unfair advantage to it, Randy.
And a large number of alternates claim they were voting.
Yes, alternates that aren't supposed to vote were actually voting by voice vote. So,
yeah, a roll call would have been a simple.
Roll call would have been better.
Or an electronic device for those who are...
I think we will address that. We will address it. I know that's one of Mr. Priebus's concerns as well. So, otherwise, I think on a national level, we've got money in the bank. The Democrats don't. And we, you know, I think hopefully we can not shoot ourselves in a long, protracted Republican primary and get a good candidate up there in the very beginning and have a prolonged opportunity to be able to go after it. And, you know, you wonder who the Democrats are going to have, and right now it looks like Hillary's really going after it really hard. And so we're looking at some great opportunities here as we come forward, but hopefully we don't have this protracted, long primary system where we spend millions of dollars fighting each other and then try to get back together and go after the prize. So I think the nation itself is starting to catch on. The party on the national level, I will tell you that the face of that party is changing as we see. I don't think that the Republican National Committee has ever worked together any better than it is right now. And so I think you're going to see some good things from there. Yes, Rick.
Can I just say, we're glad to hear that Debbie can actually talk now, because the last time we heard her, she was squeaking.
She sounded like Betty Boop or somebody like that. But, you know, she can talk. And I will tell you, I have had great pleasure serving with Debbie as a National Committee woman. One of the most respected National Committee women in the Republican National Committee. So you should be very thankful you're well represented there. And we look forward to bringing, so I can have Debbie on each side. And we look forward to introducing you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Very well. We're moving on then to wrap up things. And we have next on the agenda the Federation of Republican Women, and Rhonda Boyles is perhaps online, but oh, very well.
I'm Ginger Johnson. I'm representing Rhonda Boyles, and I have to go to front.
Please.
I'm just going to make it quick. First of all, last night we raised $5,000 at our fundraiser, so thank you all for coming. We usually just take money from ourselves, so we're really glad to get your money. The other, across the state, the other Republican women groups are hosting Lincoln Day dinners, and I hope that they're as successful as ours. Thanks.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. At this time, we have legislators and members that we would like to introduce, and we have. I'd just like to stand or have Representative Lance Pruitt stand and introduce your wife, and then pass the baton, to one of your fellow legislators to say a little hello to us after that.
Okay, well, actually, I usually yield the floor to senators, so actually, if we can, I'd like to start with Senator Stevens. And,
thank you very well. Very well, very well. All right.
Usually the House is not so nice to us. They don't know we're there until about the last week when they realize they have to have our vote. So I have a pleasure to be here. I really have appreciated this meeting. I know it's been contentious, but I just want to say Peter's talk was so moving, and what he said about bringing. We all come from different directions. We all come from different paths, and how we get here is amazing. But his comments about, he didn't say Big Tent, but really that's what it is all about. We've got to make sure the people who agree with us are in the tent with us. And if I have to just say one thing about my district, but I don't understand Fairbanks at all, but I think I do understand Kodiak, and nobody does that. But I would say that in Kodiak, 20% of my voters in the city of Kodiak are Filipino. They are wonderful people, very religious people, family-oriented, big families, parents and grandparents and children, and just wonderful, wonderful people. Why any of them are Democrats is just beyond me. What have we done wrong not to make sure that they are in the Republican Party? And that's exactly what I think you were saying. We have to work on those folks and bring them in. We cannot choose our voters, maybe to a certain extent. I mean, Randy's a past master of making sure that the redistricting and all of these things, to a certain extent, in the short term, we can choose our voters. For the most part, the voters choose us. And let's just make sure that the people that agree with us are with us on this, and we have a lot of work to do. I just thank you so much for what you've done, and all of you. It's a great experience being here, and thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Representative.
well, thank you and welcome. I'll start by welcoming you again here as our new chair. Appreciate it. Well, for those of you, I think I know many of you, but I'll just kind of restate. My name is Representative Lance Pruitt. I represent a little portion of East Anchorage. I currently serve as the majority leader in the House of Representatives. And she mentioned to introduce my wife. Of course, that would be neglecting my duty as a husband. And that is, my wife is here with me. She is our bonus vote, Mary Ann. I know many of you probably know her better than know me. This is an exciting year for us. Exciting year because Gary does not have to go into a room with a bunch of Democrats and decide how we move Alaska forward. He gets to go in with a lot of great individuals that we worked really hard to get there. And as a House member who had the opportunity to serve with the bipartisan coalition, of course, some of the struggle that we faced with some of the Democrats that could have some input, it's great to be able to look over there and see people who are not only like-minded, but are incredibly excited and ready to move Alaska forward. Some of the really big issues that we focused on over the last couple of years, you are seeing they are starting to move in both bodies. And I believe that we will see some resolution on some of these key issues, whether it's oil taxes, or finally being able to have a discussion about our budget. Our budget is continuing to grow. 6.5% when you finally include the amounts for the personnel services into the budget that the governor has given us. You're looking at 6.5% growth in our operating budget this year. And because of the decline in oil, because of the decline in the throughput, this year alone we're over $900 million shorter than what the budget was when we passed it. And if we continued on the same budget that we had last year, we'd already be $400 million we'd be pulling out of savings. Over $400 million we'd be pulling out of savings. That's not sustainable. It's not something we can continue to do. And we recognize that. But it's a tough battle. It's a tough battle to take care of those things because we have to address things that some people have become entitled to throughout the state. And so we're going to need your help in your communities with getting out there and helping the people that your neighbors, the people that you live among, understand that we're not making decisions because we're being mean. We're not making decisions because we have an agenda against certain people. Our agenda is Alaska's long-term financial and fiscal stability. Alaska will continue to be a great place for myself, for my kids, eventually my grandkids, but that's if we take these actions now. And I think you've got a great group, 30 members in our majority, of which I have to go through 26 of them are Republican. They're a diverse group, a lot of great ideas, from 80 years old down to myself at 31, so wide breadth of experience and knowledge. We're ready to move forward. We're excited and looking forward to the next couple of years. But I'll add this last piece. In 2 years, once redistricting's all done, let's make sure that we don't take our focus away from making sure that not only do we defeat Mark Baggage, not only do we keep the governorship, but that we maintain these leads that we have in both the House and the Senate. Because the things that the things we need to do will span beyond these next couple of years. So this is just a start. Thank you, and I want to introduce Representative Thompson from up there in Fairbanks. He's a great member of our majority, and I've had the pleasure to serve with him, and so I'll introduce him now.
Thank you. I promise I won't be as long as Lance. I want to thank the party and all of you very much for helping to and making it possible to change the makeup of the Northern District, especially in the Senate side. That was fantastic to see that turnaround of RSDs that they're being held when we go down here to Juneau. This is my second term, and I wanted to thank the party and the Republican women especially because they helped me get in 2 years ago. This year I was unopposed this last election, so that was pretty good. But I've been wanting to get on finance, and I finally got there, and I'm now on the House Finance. Then we get the revenue report that in the next 2 years combined, using $109 per barrel oil, we're going to be $1.6 billion short from where we were in 2012. Maybe it wasn't the right time to get on finance. but we're working hard to get the budget under control and get the departments to realize that we can't continue to have that growth. And it's going to be a real hard job from the Senate side and the House side to try to make sure that we get there without hurting Alaska. That's the biggest part that we have to do. Anyway, I really thank you for today. Debbie, I look forward to your leadership, and thank you very much. And keep up the good work. Thank you.
Very well. Any other representative wanting to step forward and say something? All right. We have reached a point on the agenda then where I would like to call upon Randy Rudrick to just talk a little bit about the 2013-2014 timeline for folks to think about putting their name in the hat for election coming up and fundraising and so forth.
Well, elections are a never-ending process. We're in the midst of the run-up to the Anchorage City election right now. It is an early April election. Most of our candidates have filing closes. It's closed Friday. Yesterday. Okay, right. That election process will happen, and we'll have another one in 14. We'll have fall elections throughout the state and the rest of the municipalities and boroughs. Make sure you have your candidates working toward, because giving things to the Democrats means that we'll later have them running against people like Gary and Steve and Lance, so there should be no free passes. On the other side, obviously some day shortly after 1st May is filing time for the legislature. I've asked several folks, is there anybody who's announced that they're retiring from the legislature? Officially, I think the answer to that is none to this date. That may change. We've got a whole bunch of United States senators already saying they're not coming back. So we need to pay attention to your own district, to your neighboring districts, be prepared to help. And then when folks file, as I encouraged Adam Tromley in Anchorage to file last year and try to raise enough money that no one ever contemplates filing against it. Become a functional fortress, run your life, so that you don't have to, if you do a good job early, late becomes pretty simple. There's nobody out there running against you. And Steve kind of proved that. He raised a bunch of money and didn't have an opponent in the primary or the general. Use that as a role model. So
June 1, right?
in May, sometime in May you can file. June 1 of the following year is the filing deadline. But I've always said if you're contemplating filing after April 1st, you're running for the wrong cycle. Because you just don't have time to get it together. I'd like for everybody who's meaningful to file in the odd year, raise a significant amount of money until we do away with APOC's current idiot rules. You have to be able to go to the donors twice. If you file early enough in the Anchorage City election, you can go to the donors 3 times. Make the most of the opportunities that are there. File early, work hard, and come back.
Thank you. I imagine several of you are thinking about filing already. You can see the wheels turning. Good. Very well. We're going to talk now. Actually, Randy, if you don't mind just jumping into redistricting, just for a little summary where we are, where you think we're headed with that redistricting.
The State Redistricting Board is meeting on Tuesday to revisit where they are with the State Supreme Court. I will attend. I will keep you posted as to what's happening. I've invited or made Debbie aware of this ongoing saga called redistricting. I do not expect a huge amount of change rather than prejudicing my internal view into the media and to creating a great deal of havoc. I will simply say, stand by. It should be fairly peaceful.
Very good. That's a good report. We'll hope for that. Thank you. Okay. Now, on the agenda, we have Frank McQuarrie with a Rules Committee report, and then we will skip the next item because Frank pretty much already gave the 2012 budget review in his previous. So, Frank, on the Rules Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We only had one thing that the Rules Committee worked on in the interim since the last meeting. We had received, I think I reported earlier, we had received a complaint from Mr. Wilkie about the transfer of funds last March, April timeframe of the House majority and the Senate challenger funds from the Republican Party to the Capital City Republican group. And he questioned whether that was appropriate under the rules. I will tell you, we had already reported on that about 8 months ago, but we ran through the whole process again, just in an abundance of caution, and polled everybody on the Rules Committee. It states quite clearly in the rules that funds can only be dispersed in the direction of the Executive Committee or the Targeting Committee. And what all of you need to understand about those various accounts that you see listed on those statements, there are a number of those where we are basically the bookkeepers. We do the job of keeping track of those funds for these various affiliate organizations, and that includes the Senate Challenger Fund, or whatever they're calling it this year, as well as the House Majority Fund that they've been for many years. We charge a fee because we do all the reporting and we keep them out of jail. And essentially is what it is. And we try to keep ourselves out of jail. So this is heavy-duty stuff with all of the regulations, and even a minor violation can occasion a $10 a day fine, which amounts very, very rapidly. It's 50 now? 50. Oh, I'm behind the times. I thought you were going to change that.
I have plans.
So we fold again the funds have been ruled by the rule committee that it was done according to the rules. The rules state quite clearly in the direction of the targeting committee or the executive committee were to do whatever they instruct. And that was an appropriate action last year, and I might as well, hopefully this will discourage Mr. Wilkie from filing the same complaint again. We did it again this year. On January 3rd, I believe, we got requests from both the House and the Senate to move their funds.
January 28th.
January 28th.
Is that an email question, or how is that question?
It was a written letter.
Oh, so they had to fax in their response?
Well, are you talking about my Rules Committee report or the
process?
The process. We received written requests from the House leadership and the Senate leadership. Then, in an abundance of caution, since it had created some negative publicity by being severely misrepresented earlier last year, we also polled the executive committee. We had no objections. The executive committee as a whole said, yeah, we have to do that. It's a responsibility, and no one objected. So hopefully everybody here has a fairly clear understanding. And this is true. We don't just do it the big numbers for the House and Senate, but we also, for those districts who don't want the financial responsibility and the potential financial penalties associated with improper reporting, we do keep track of some district funds. Not all. Some districts continue to do their own and do some do better, some do worse in terms of not tripping over the APOP regulations. So if there are any questions.
Any questions for the Rules Committee? Looks like you're...
Thank you.
All right. Under here we are looking at new business. I can see that we're actually down to the point where introduction of resolutions and rules. Mr. Roberts.
I would move that the 2014 State Convention be held in Fairbanks, Alaska. I'll speak to that in just a second.
Second. We have, very well. We have had a motion from the floor. Mr. Roberts, speak to your motion, please. This is an important matter that is timely, and I appreciate the motion.
Yeah, I believe by now we should have already been talking about the convention. We talked about it 2 years ago in Juneau, where we had the final bid on where the 2012 State Convention would be. And we had presentations from Fairbanks and Anchorage. So everybody who was there, which is a large percentage of people here, understand that Fairbanks has the capability of running that convention, and it's certainly been run there in the past. So I think, as Anchorage had the 2012 one, that Fairbanks would be an appropriate venue for the 2014 convention.
Thank you for the motion. We have a discussion on the matter, so Mr. Rudrick. Excuse me.
There were items on the suggested agenda that were removed. I believe the first thing we should be talking about is trying to determine what kind of convention we're having. This is a small convention. It is the only opportunity we have to go to someplace other than Anchorage or Fairbanks. Cities such as Soldotna and Wasilla can host a non-presidential year meeting. If we're going to go for a presidential year, we've had 2 in a row in Anchorage. The only other place we could have a presidential convention in the state of Alaska that has enough space for a 550-person convention is Fairbanks. So I would encourage us to entertain a process that, first of all, determines how many people we plan to have. And I would suggest that we have a smaller convention, obviously, than 550, and the minimum number according to the rules is 350. We must come to closure on this today. So
In what manner are you talking closure?
We need to set, as my original agenda suggested to you, a date, at least a month for the convention, the fee structure, and how many delegates, so that we can get bids from folks to have a convention in Soldotna or Wasilla, and if anybody else can figure out a town that might work, because I would be very concerned, because if we approve the motions on the floor, you are 100% guaranteed to have the 2016 convention in Anchorage again, and I firmly believe that that is a bad idea.
Thank you. Are there any, yes, Mr. Roberts?
Yeah, just to reply to one comment. Wasilla was looking at bidding last time, and they pulled out at the last minute, but they certainly believed that they were capable of holding a presidential convention. So I believe there are more options than just the 2%.
Enough space.
Well, probably, let me just say, probably we should have taken this up at the previous central committee meeting, so that timeliness, we are actually behind in this process of selecting. So, you know, I appreciate the motion. We do have a motion on the floor. We should probably discuss it. Now, we have an area that's interested, and so it has been seconded. So in the interest of time, you know, I might just say, from the communities that are out there, if you think you can, if there's strong interest from another one of the communities that you know of at the present time, you know, you might want to consider voting this motion down. On the other hand, if we have a community that's willing to move ahead on it and try to bring us back on time, it might be a good idea to vote yes on this motion. So I would just, yes, sir. Yes, sure.
Bruce Schulte, District 21. I agree with the imperative of establishing this direction.
Please identify ourselves, Madam Chairman.
Bruce Schulte, District 21. If you got that. I wholeheartedly agree with the imperative to get this matter settled. However, given the scope and the complexity and the logistics things that Ms. Breedsburg has just brought up, I wonder if the maker of the motion would consider amending it to instead invite bids at the next central committee meeting, so that the various communities could take a very, very good look at the facilities they have, the resources they have, the people they have, and decide, okay, you know, is this the direction we want to go? Certainly Fairbanks, you know, would be one of those bidders, and then with those bids in hand, or those proposals in hand, at the next central committee meeting, we could evaluate them also in light of, you know, it being a non-presidential year versus a presidential year, and so forth. Just a suggestion to make a motion.
Mr. Robbins.
So to respond to that, I believe we're behind the power curve. We should have already been at this point where if we were having bids, it would be presented here, where it happened 2 years ago, and actually we really had needed. Then we needed it. This Lance Roberts, District 5.
You can walk up front so they can hear you on phone.
I think the lady's wanting to ask a question is what she's wanting to do, but go ahead, Mr. Robbins.
So 2 years ago, it really should have been done in December, and it ended up getting delayed till our meeting in Juneau, and that's when we have the bids and we have the vote. But if we hold off now till April or May, we're really pushing the power curve for getting a facility and the facilities that we need to run that booked a year ahead of time. We're already late to get into that game, and so I think we need to move this forward. Certainly if there are other communities, they need to speak for it, but I believe that Fairbanks is ready and prepared to be able to run this, and those who remember our last presentation, we were certainly excited about that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Brian Hove, Bonus Boat, District 19, and Lance was instrumental in our efforts a couple of years ago. At that time, I was living in Fairbanks and helping with the folks up there, and we did go after the state convention. We came up a little short. I believe that Fairbanks is owed an opportunity to try that again. Lance, the question I would have though is, you know, do you want to go for the small ball, or do you want to go for the presidential? And I think the point that Randy makes is probably valid. If it were me, if I were still in Fairbanks, I'd probably be looking at more of a presidential year than mid-year.
Have a comment, please?
Yes, please.
Karen Terry, District 12. In the light of the conversations earlier, we want people to participate in this convention or these conventions. We must find more affordable facilities. $250 is ridiculous. Plus the fact that people have to travel and pay overnight accommodation and food. It's just out of the ballpark for too many. And a lot of people in our party are not being represented because of these expensive venues.
Thank you. And I just have to comment here. I appreciate something that Paulette Simpson said to me just yesterday of how wonderful it would be to set the date for this spring February legislative session in advance, and it's possible that she may say something or bring a motion to the floor on that. But you know, having worked with the Republican women's groups and women, this is now the time to step up and say so. Because I would, you know, the Kenai Peninsula, I mean, Kay, what's your thought on this if you're in the room? Kay, what's your thought? Do you think are we going to want to put together a bid from the Kenai Peninsula on this short notice? Are you interested in doing that for the next meeting? Okay, so Valley folks, that's where we are with this right now. So, you know, Kay, if she's going to go home, we're going to try to start rallying this conversation and coming up with a bid proposal for next, you know, so that's what it amounts to. Or if Fairbanks is interested in this, that's where we are. So, you know, that's the practicality of it. Some of you are out there sitting around going, well, yeah, but you're not going to be doing anything maybe. I don't know. So, okay. All right, so we need to, this is the time to think this through and lead the way, women. If we women are going to be putting this thing on, we got to be thinking practical thoughts right now. We've got Fairbanks saying we're interested, we're willing, and you know this is it. This is an opportunity. So
call for the question.
All right, you know we got to vote on that question.
May I make a comment?
We've got to call.
This man was up first.
I can't speak for the whole Wasilla area, but I would not want to
Please identify
obligate
yourself.
Wasilla area at this point for this next possible convention. When we looked at it last time, it looked like there might be some difficulty. I would want to have the time to go back and talk to our group and we'll talk to the mayor want me over?
We have Mr. Aaron Downing coming to the microphone to be more well understood.
I would not want anyone to think that there might be some obligation on the part of the Wasilla area to hold the 2014 convention. I'm not sure that we would be ready to commit or want to do that. And I think we should have the time to go back and review with our people if there is an interest. So I would be supporting a motion or supporting then that some formal application be made at the next Central Committee meeting. But we're not, I don't believe that Wasilla area is in a position to say that we would want to see. Do you agree with that, Mr. Mayor?
I think we'd like a shot at it.
Good. We'd like a shot at it, but how about you, Edna?
I don't know, maybe we should try just to get an SCC meeting sometime for a trial and see how we would do, you know.
I withdraw my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kay Tariana, may I ask you a question? What are your thoughts on the Kenai Peninsula? Do you think our Kenai Peninsula would like to have a shot at putting a bid together? Are you interested?
I would think so.
Would you be interested in communicating that to the women's group then as well? Very well. That's the input we have. We have a motion on the floor. And so a yes vote will allow Fairbanks to move ahead, and a no vote would then provide opportunity for bids to be, you know, at least responded to. And we may only get one at the next meeting, but that would be something that the various committees.
I put the table the motion. I don't want to vote down for Fairbanks. That's negative. I support Fairbanks, but I think we need a different direction so we can have the right information at the next meeting.
Very well. We have a motion to table.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
District 34.
Well, and unless people say their name and what district they're from and come to the microphone, the rest of us don't know who's talking and can't hear.
I apologize. In this environment, people are seated, and we have not been having people come all the way to the microphone. But I'll just
say their name and their district, and they can speak up.
Would the gentleman in the back speak up and just restate the motion that was seconded just now, please, and your district as well?
District 34, move to table the motion.
Yes, your name?
Robert Venables.
Right. So hopefully you were able to hear that, and it was seconded by Mr. Randy Rudrick. So we have that motion to table on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
We do have some nays. The ayes have it. Very well. So those bids will be coming forward at the next. So please, everyone, communicate with your folks and bring those proposals to us.
The next what?
Mr. Hendrick, we'll set that date just in a moment.
I would like to make a motion to work that problem.
You're going to need a second for that motion.
Yes, let me make the motion. I make it a second.
You may.
Hello.
I'm past chair, Randy Riedrich, and I propose that we have the next convention
Meeting? Oh.
in the month of April at a site to be determined at our May meeting of the Central Committee, that we have an authorization of the minimum number of delegates allowed for a convention, which is 350 by state party rule, and that we have a uniform fee of $250 per person to ensure us the opportunity to not only fund the convention, but make it a modest fundraiser for the state party. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Now that was a clearly stated motion.
Thank you.
And we have a second. Discussion on the motion, please.
This is Karen Perry, District 12.
Yes, you have.
Yes, I will reiterate that the $250, we have a small group of people that keep paying the same amount of money. We have a lot of people in this state that want to participate in the elect the Republican Party, and they say, I can't afford it. It's become a party if you have to pay to play, and people are getting sick and tired of the high fee.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Madam Chairman.
We have several in front of you, so one moment please, gentlemen, online, just one moment. We have a speaker here. Yes.
Daniel Palmer, bonus vote for District 10. The thing is I see this quite often. A lot of people want to participate. $250 is quite a bit, especially for people that are barely scraping by currently with the economy. I'd say we should reduce it to at least $100. That's a lot more reasonable. The thing is we should be affording the cost of the facility, not trying to fundraise. We want people to participate. If we continue to go ahead and try to make this a fundraising event and raise as much money as possible, you know what? People are not going to be able to participate. We're not going to have that inclusion that we want to see. We want diversity. We've got to make sure we can allow people to be able to participate.
Yes, we have another speaker in the back, and then we'll come back online. Yes.
Peter Giesel, Regional Finance. It costs money to run these conventions. Having run similar events, it costs a lot of money to run these conventions. We don't typically make a whole lot of money on these. We make some, but not a whole lot. And also being an off-year convention, we're limiting the delegates to 350 anyway, so we're not asking a whole lot of people to participate. We're asking the minimum number that we can legally do by our rules to participate.
We have a speaker online. Okay, the gentleman online, please.
Jim Norcross, District 7. I have a comment, or a question and a comment. Was Randy's motion seconded?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Then I would suggest that people do what I do. I start saving my money from one convention to the next until I got enough to go.
Very well. Good. Any other discussion? Mr. Goldberg and then Mr. Gruber.
Peter Goldberg, Vice Chair. While I would really love to see the cost come down to make it easier for people to attend, unfortunately, you can't hold a convention at a place like a Motel 6. These places are very expensive. Perhaps, not now, but perhaps at some future day, we might look at some mechanism for some kind of scholarship to help less advantaged people to come.
Okay, so we have Mr. Riedrich, and then we have another gentleman ready to speak.
Dave McGraw.
Actually, Mr. Riedrich was first Riedrich, and then
Let me ask Ms. Simpson to give me a number. What kind of net did you have on your operating cost for the 10 convention here?
All I remember is that our profit on that small convention was about the same as the profit on Anchorage, because in a smaller place, we were able to get things just a
Well,
whole
my
lot.
recollection was your profit was just above 30,000. Does that sound right?
It was 31,000 it was here, but because we kept it way down because people were spending.
I wanted to know. Now, let me take this 2 steps further. 31,000 with no staff cost. Because all the staff costs were on our books for setting up everybody coming and providing all of the paperwork to run the convention, all the process. In Anchorage last year, with a much larger convention, we had a gross margin of 43,000. In Anchorage, the prior cycle, we barely had a margin of 25,000. When you consider the fact that we have at least 2 full months of staff time and a significant amount of credit card charges that we pay in the processing, these conventions are nowhere near an overwhelming profit. They're just a positive non-cost to the party. So the illusion that we make a lot of money off of them, we had over $6,000 in credit card fees from delegate fees in the 2012 cycle. So you take the credit card cost off, take staff time off that we have to pay for, and take some of the printing costs that we don't directly attribute, we wind up with that $43,000 margin for a very large convention being well under $20,000.
Well, I'll just add a factoid here. I took $30,000 and divided by 350 individuals, which is our minimum number. And so if you were to take that profit and divide it between 350 people, that's $85.71 that we could, if we wanted to eliminate our profit and just break even on a $30,000 profit. I'm just saying, it's just a fact, okay? Nothing to get nervous about. That would mean that we could reduce the price by that amount. I'm just saying, there's a little bit of information for you to use it however you wish. Mr. McGraw.
Thank you, Dave McGraw, Bloomswood from District 9. You know, I talked to folks that were involved in the national process, and they've been to just about every state in the union. Now, we are the most expensive state at $250 that any of them had ever seen. Many states, it was like $15 to participate in the Republican convention. Now, I feel it's inappropriate for Mr. Rudrick to put $250. We don't even know where we're going to have it yet. I mean, we may find that we can have it in Raven Hall and it doesn't cost anywhere near what it costs at the Anchorage Hotel. So at this point, it seems like we're just penalizing and excluding, and we're failing to meet the spoken desired goals, our new vice chair and our chair, to try and include more people in the party to get more participation going. I understand it's a great opportunity to raise funds, but maybe we can do some other things in the convention to raise funds above and beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
I need to counter that comment.
Well, could we?
I have been personally attacked.
Yes, no.
Yes, I have.
Please don't interpret it as such.
I have been personally attacked.
We will allow you to speak. Just, we have some other folks. Myrna has not spoken on the matter, so Myrna, please speak.
I have not spoken all day this
That is Thank you, Myrna.
The convention we
They're going to holler at you.
district. Bernie Maynard, proxy for Congressman Don Young. The convention we had in the Raven Hall previously was the most expensive, money-losing convention we've ever had because everything had to be drug in there. And we thought, or people thought, that it was going to be less expensive. Turned out not to be a very good thing. The only way we can have a cheap convention is we have it out in a meadow and you all bring potluck. And I don't think you want to do that.
That'd find a big tent, wouldn't we?
Point of clarification, did you say pot what?
Potluck. We're going to come back to Mr. Riedrich and then we'll go to you, Alice.
I was actually after.
Oh, excuse me.
Alice.
Sorry,
I know I'm back here. So
I'm sorry, Alice. You'll have to.
I just want to say, in my involvement in the Republican Party in Virginia, and yeah, of course, everybody's all kind of in one spot compared to the state of Alaska, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. You know, you got fundraising opportunities and more creative ways that we can also, you know, have the type of convention that, you know, that everyone's used to and cover the cost and make us, you know, a profit. I think that we should get creative and, you know, there's no reason why we can't include everyone and have what we're used to having.
Mr. Riedrich, and then I would like to pass the gavel so I may comment, and I'll have to pass it to my brand new vice chairman.
Sometimes people mean well, but don't understand what they mean. Most states in the union allow corporate contributions to the state party.
Yes.
Yes.
They can get corporate sponsors to their conventions. Therefore, they are fully funded. That is illegal in Alaska. Always remember, we must first comply with state law before we become idealistic and believe that there are fanciful sources of funds to allow us to not pay our own way.
Okay, I would like to pass the gavel. And so just hypothetically, I'd pass the gavel.
Okay, well, as long as I hypothetically have the gavel, I'm going to remind everyone, we adjourn in 17
And so, please don't.
13 minutes.
Thank you. So here's what I'd like to just encourage. I believe that we need to reduce our fees. However, I do understand the significance of it. And you may label me idealistic, but keep in mind, I have been paying these fees for over 30 years, way over 30 years. And I'm telling you, we did it before. We were legal before. We could be legal again. And we could do fundraising efforts like we have done in the past to make up the difference. And I think that that would be a kindness which would build, a kindness that would build. So there's options. We just don't have to do it like one way or the highway. And so I would advocate for reducing that fee by 50%. And don't be so afraid to hear something like that. I'm just proposing. We're going to have to talk about these things at the budget level in the state legislature, for crying out loud. If we can't handle it here, how are we going to talk about stuff like that at the legislative level about our funding? Nevertheless, I think that people would appreciate 50% less. So I would like to at this time make a motion. I'm just going to make a motion to amend.
Are we done talking?
So we reduce this. I'm going to amend the motion by 50%. I'm going to ask for a motion. I passed the gavel, so I'm asking for a motion to reduce the fee alone by 50%.
Discussion.
And I need a second to that.
District 33, Bill Privet, I'll second that amendment.
All right, I have a second to the amendment, and
So you have the gavel back?
No,
All right, so did you make the motion?
I did.
And I'd like to speak to that again.
I got the gavel.
If I may just, I'm sorry, you're going to speak well. If I may just put some perspective on this, I don't disagree with you keeping the fees. I'm sorry, Bruce Schulte, District 21. And I should state, I did not say this before, I am not advocating Rankbridge, nor am I advocating for myself to do that convention. That's horrific. That said, you know, that $250 seems like a large chunk of money, and certainly it is, you know, dollars. Of that $250, $272 was some cost. That was the cost of holding the event. The net profit per attendee was $78. So at $250 was not a huge moneymaker, and we don't really know what the expenses are. We don't know where it's going to be. But I think that if we say, well, we're making 125, I can almost guarantee we're going to lose money. That's an awful situation to be in for a nonprofit organization.
But it's a small convention.
Yeah, that's true. But keep in mind, the larger the larger the convention, the more people you're spreading some of the fixed costs over. So there's an economy of scale that we enjoyed in Anchorage, and even then we only netted $43,000. So cutting it in half, I think, is dangerous.
Paulette Simpson, Region 7 Finance Chair. 2014 is the year that we want to defeat Mark Bagage. We want to re-elect a Republican governor and re-elect our majorities in the State House and Senate. And I worry that the message we would be sending to the rest of the state is we're not very serious about this because we're going to reduce our fees. either they'll think, oh, we've got it in the bag, or what's happened to those people. I think that what Randy was saying about the corporate contributions, this is a discussion I've had with Democrat friends, that we need to do something about that. We should be able to take corporate contributions for conventions, for conventions. And this is something I'd certainly be willing to work on with our legislators, figure out a way, because that's something we actually have some agreement on. But it probably won't be in time, but what we can do now is say no more than $250 for our convention fees.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Randy, anything next? Brian Hove, bonus vote, District 19. As Paulette alluded to, I think we're losing sight of the objective here. The objective is to elect Republicans. And so it takes money to do this. And who else, if not Republicans, is going to contribute to this cause? This is one of the ways to do that.
Is there any further debate on the motion?
I would like to make a motion to amend the amendment to change the wording to no more than.
There's a motion to amend on the floor.
The chair wants the gavel back. Please, Scott.
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor.
There is. Now, we can have an amendment to the amendment, if you want to.
We should have that in the friendly amendment.
You have to get a second to that amendment.
There may be people on the phone that might want to speak to it. Can we
Frank, you better say, we have Frank McQuarrie making an amendment to the amendment, and we'll see if we get a second.
My suggestion was to amend the amendment to read no more than $250 and let everybody know this bidding, which obviously cost is a huge factor in the selection process.
Second, now has this 12.
It's been seconded, so the motion is that we're on the amendment. We have an amendment to the motion. We have an amendment to an amendment, and that's all the amendments we're going to take. All right, but they're fine. We're fine on that. I think there is a limit to the number of amendments that you can make. So therefore, Mr. McQuarrie's amendment is to have the concept to be no more than $250. Okay, no more than. That means it can be less, depending on the bid. $50. And it's been seconded. So, and then we're momentarily going to vote on this amendment. So, discussion, and we've got to this quick.
If there's discussion on this, I want to say that I fully support Mr. McQuarrie's amendment.
Very well.
And I wanted to make sure that Randy didn't feel personally attacked.
Thank you.
I was attacking the concept.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very well. Any further discussion on this amendment? No more than $250. Yes? Is there someone online?
Terry, this is 12. I agree with Frank that we have to wait until we get the bid. There's no reason to set a limit of, or the cost at $250 without knowing what the bids are.
So you're supporting the amendment? Karen, are you supporting the amendment?
Yeah, and I'm just trying to say that if you keep the fees down as low as possible, the goal isn't only just to elect Republican candidates. Of course, that's our goal. But we want to hear the voice of all Republicans.
Got it.
We want to hear the voice of all Republicans. We want to keep the cost down and get more. Okay.
All right. I think we're really down. Okay, so we're going to vote on this motion. All in favor of no more than $250? Wait for the bids to come in. Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, good. Now we've got the fee set. So therefore, I mean, that's not exactly. We've got a passed we have a passed amendment to the motion. Now we've got this motion that Mr. Rubrick clearly stated, and it has to do with a April convention to be considered in fact at the next May SCC meeting, and we're ready to vote on that motion to receive bids. And everyone understands the question, right? We're down on time. All right. Let's have a yes vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Excellent. Okay, that motion passes, and we will deal with it in that manner. I encourage all of you to get the lowest possible price you think you can make a reasonable profit on your event. Ms. Burton, yes.
Kathy Kilter,
Yes,
District 15.
yes, Kat.
Can I make a motion for the next SAC meeting?
You may.
Okay. My motion is that we have it in May 4th in Homer at Land's End.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you for that motion. Thank you. We've had a proposal for the next date of the Central Committee meeting, May 4. May 4. Saturday, first weekend in May 2013 in Homer, Alaska.
Madam Chair, that's the same weekend as the AFRW convention in Fairbanks.
Well, the motion has been made and seconded it.
No.
So,
That would be.
To amend.
well,
I think.
okay, we're hearing lots of no-no-nos. We have a motion to amend, so maybe we should take the motion to amend, please. How about the 11th or the 18th?
May I propose that we have the SCC meeting in conjunction with the AFRW convention?
We have a motion.
I move to amend June 1st.
Oh, that's, I would say that's too
Memorial Day
late.
weekend.
Furthermore, we've already had a previous motion where the previous motion stated we're going to have a central committee meeting in May. Because of that action, we have to stick with May. So we've got, how about the 11th or the 18th? If you look to your calendar, we've got a Saturday the 11th or a Saturday the 18th.
Let's go with the 11.
Let's consider June 1st as acceptable within the intent because it's the Labor Day weekend.
I think that we should not, according to what the motion that was passed, so I would like to offer that we should consider Saturday, May 11. Could we have a motion for Saturday, May 11 and see if it sinks or swims?
I move that we have our next SEC meeting on May 11th.
All right,
Okay.
can we have a second? Thank you. All right, we have a motion.
Point of information.
Sir.
My understanding, the facility in Homer, in your district, is not available on May 11th or May 18th.
They have a Shorebird Festival, and then they have some other thing going through the 4th.
So, our best bet, if we're going to try to,
4th. Okay.
if we have a conflict on the 4th, I believe it's totally appropriate that this body, in view of the information in front of it, accept June 1st. As within the realm of what was intended as a prior motion.
How about, what's wrong with the 25th?
Is that Memorial Weekend?
Oh.
Memorial Day weekend works.
1 minute. That way you can have a minor holiday while you're doing the meeting.
What are the wishes of the body? I
Move
need
to
a-
amend to the 25th, Homer, Land's End.
All right.
Austin McDaniel, bonus vote 27.
Austin McDaniel moved the 25.
Second.
We have a second. 25 of May. 25 of May. Homer, Alaska.
That is Memorial Day weekend.
That's okay.
We realize that's a holiday weekend. Make a holiday on the keynote. All right. We're going to move on this motion, up or down. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Homer, Alaska, 25 May. Thank you very much. And I think we have reached our moment of adjournment as we agreed earlier. So, we have a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Text me your email on your phone.
Congratulations.